Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Matt McDuff Show. It gives me great pleasure once more to bring to you for your delight the Matt McDuff Show.
All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Matt McDuff Show. I'm your host, Matt McDuff, and usually it is my job to sit down with athletes, enthusiasts, and maybe even sometimes experts. But today I have a good friend on the podcast. This is a special day because we're actually been taking a break from the show and we built a studio. So we're filming, which is crazy experience. This is the first time I've ever done that. And we have Jake Fox today on the show. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's sweet to see the podcast studio finally finished. I was here in the beginning when it was kind of just a shed, a bare bones shed. So it's been sweet to see it come this far, and yeah, stoked to be here.
That's really the coolest thing is that having you in here first is so cool because you actually seen it develop, and you actually even helped as well, which is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I was thinking earlier today, it's actually crazy because I started listening to this podcast before I even knew who you were. And I fell in love with the podcast, listened to it all the time. And now here we are in the booth and we're homies. And now we're doing the podcast. It's just crazy full circle moment.
Life is crazy, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have a crazy life story talking about crazy lives, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that our guests today are definitely in for a treat because this is you inspire me a lot, like when I'm riding and stuff, and even today, you know, you maybe that's where we should start. Like, well, what do we do today?
We just had an awesome session at the Kamloops Bike Ranch. Felt like it was the first good session of spring. Rained all morning, no wind, and yeah, it was great. Good crew of guys. It was a good sesh.
So Kamloops Bike Ranch has some of the biggest public bike park jumps in the world, and there you were just shredding them today, which was awesome.
Yeah, we're so fortunate in Kamloops. Every time I ride that trail, Fistful of Dollars is the main jump line in Kamloops. It's just like, I don't know how this is a public trail. It's like mandatory 30-foot gaps the whole way down. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was definitely inspired today, and I think people listening from wherever you are, you're going to be inspired too. I think a good place for us to kick things off is maybe I would love to hear how you discovered your love for riding bikes. Like, when did you first get into riding, and how did it happen?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it started like most people do, you know, parents get you a bike and you're riding around town with the neighborhood kids, going to the local skate park. But I think it really kicked into gear for me actually when I went into high school in grade 8. We, new in high school, and we noticed there was a mountain bike club at our school. So me and all my buddies who'd just been riding around the one local dirt jump spot, the one local skate park, went to it. And we were a little unsure of it at first because it was this old guy, like ready to retire, crazy white hair, Mr. Simpson, Russ Simpson. He ran the bike club, and we're like, I don't know, like if this old guy, you know, what's the deal going to be with bike club? And so we showed up the first Saturday, and he had like a Ford Fiesta with a custom blue bike rack, and he could tow like 9 bikes behind his Ford Fiesta. And he would just take us every weekend to all the sickest skate parks and downhill zones around Vancouver. We would do Whistler trips to the Air Dome, and he really blew the doors wide open for mountain biking for all of us because we couldn't drive, and our parents didn't really, you know, if we asked, they would take us around, but he showed us all those spots, and we were like, wow, like, this is insane. Like, Vancouver is the craziest place, and it just blew the doors wide open for us.
That's where that was, Vancouver? Because that sounds like an incredible program.
Yeah, I grew up in Langley, so yeah, he would take us all around the lower mainland and up to Whistler some weekends, and yeah, I really owe a lot to Mr. Simpson. He definitely sparked the fire for mountain biking for me.
Well, it's so cool that, Vancouver and British Columbia could just have a program like that.
Yeah, unreal. It was so sweet. He'd get like tons of parent volunteers to help out on the weekends to get us around. But yeah, and then from there, me and all my buddies, you know, we're finally hit grade 12. We get our licenses, and we were all so excited. Like, oh, we're going to get trucks, and then we don't need bike club. You know, we can just go wherever we want. But a lot of my friends, they got more into trucks than bikes, and it was kind of an awkward couple of years, grade 12, and then after riding, because I didn't really feel like I had a crew anymore. My crew kind of dissembled. Like, I still rode a fair bit, but then lucky enough for us, the Air Rec Indoor Mountain Bike Center opened up in Maple Ridge. A couple of buddies opened it up, and there was a lot of guys in the same boat as me who had, like, their riding crews had kind of fallen apart, and we all just met at the indoor bike park. And I owe so much to that place. Like, some of my best friends till this day came from just the nightly Air Rec sessions all winter that we would all just go and hang out at.
Wow. Shout out to Air Rec and all the guys that were working towards that place. That place was just incredible. What age were you around this time?
So Air Rec came out when I was probably 19 or 20, I would say. Yeah, I would say 2021 is when Air Rec first opened, and I, like, just met all those dudes, like, all the homies that were just getting, like, kind of like regaining their love for mountain biking almost, and, like, yeah.
And what type of bikes were you guys riding?
Dirt jump bikes all the way. I didn't get a downhill bike until I was probably 18, 19. Then even then, it was just a couple of trips to Whistler and a couple of the local downland zones, but we were all just riding dirt jumps all the time, yeah.
It's incredible how, like, a spot can just bring people together like that.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm just resonating with you because you were talking about how you lost your crew, and Air Rec Center kind of helped you find your crew back. And, being a professional rider for so many years, 10 plus years, you transition through so many different crews, and you're so right. It's all about the location and the place where you ride.
100%.
And then you just go to that riding spot.
Yeah.
And you almost just acquire.
You just get better because you're just riding with all the boys all the time, and everyone's just, it's the classic saying, feeding off each other, but everyone is just pushing each other. Like, friend learns a new trick, it's like, oh, I want to learn that new trick, you know what I mean? And then just, yeah, then having that one place for us all to meet up for that first winter, and then the following spring was crazy because we all had our, like, local zones, and we'd be like, oh, why don't you come check out my jumps in Chilliwack? And then we'd all go dig on the jumps in Chilliwack, and, like, just the friendship grew, and it was crazy how much we all progressed and all our spots progressed because we finally had that crew, like, growing our local scene.
That's so cool, eh?
Yeah.
So what do you think it was about riding that you loved so much that kind of kept you going towards it?
Biking was always that thing for me. I was always working full time out of high school, and if I ever, like, felt stressed or just in my head, you'd go biking and everything would just go out the window. You totally forget, like, getting into that flow state of just not thinking about anything else but what's going on. And it would just be, like, such a release after, like, such a nice feeling, like, oh, like, such a relaxation almost after getting a good session because you're not thinking about anything else but the current moment and the current, like, riding session. So I think that, and then just pushing yourself and the progression of it and the friendships that came from it, for sure.
How'd you find doing the work-ride balance as a young guy?
It was a little hard. It wasn't hard, but it was a bit frustrating because, through high school, I was like, me and my friends were kind of progressing at the same level. And then some who were fortunate enough to have some money from sponsors or not have to work full time, I watched them progress significantly faster because they would go to Europe for the winter or whatever, or go down to California and ride. But I was just working Monday to Friday towards my electrical apprenticeship to pay to go riding on the weekend. But what didn't bum me out, I was still just stoked to be riding still. And yeah, so it was hard to find the balance for sure. But luckily enough, my company was always super good. Like, if I had a contest or a bike trip in the summer, they would give me the time off, no problem, to, like, go riding all the time. So they were super good about that, which was awesome.
Yeah, that work-life balance when you're youth is so hard because all you want to do is just ride. You're foaming at the mouth, and
yeah,
if you got friends that are riding more, you're just
all
like,
the time.
You're
yeah,
freaking out. And
yeah,
I remember, I got really lucky having work at a family business and a clock shop. My grandfather always gave me the time I needed, but I always needed to put in a certain amount of hours every week. So if I took time off, I had to
make it up.
Make it up somehow.
Yeah.
So it was definitely tough.
Yeah, that was the nice part about I was working towards my electrical apprenticeship. The school was really short. It was only 10 weeks of the year. And then like you work and make money and you're working towards like your apprenticeship. So I would be working full time but still be working towards something, and then that just gave me all the money to go off on the weekend and go mountain biking and stuff. So it was really good.
Was it just love for you in riding, or did you have any goals? Like, did you have any inspiring goals to be like a professional or?
No, I mean, like, I wanted to get sponsored. Like, in high school, obviously, that's, like, every kid's dream, you know, like, pro biker would be super sweet. But then, once I got out of high school and, like, started working full-time, I was like, it's not that I didn't want to be a full-time rider, but I just saw it almost as a bit of a far-fetched goal. So I would just set, like, different goals for myself and, like, not necessarily like, oh, I don't want to be a pro rider, but it'd be sweet to get a couple sponsors, you know, get some free bikes. So I'd save a little bit of money, and then I would just set like more so riding goals, like, oh, I want to learn these tricks this year, you know, or I want to do this video part this year, rather than like, oh, I want to be a pro rider. It was like every year I'd be like, oh, okay, it'd be really cool to make a video I was super proud of, or it'd be cool to learn these tricks, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's crazy because I always like to, you know, set the stage, you know, for what we're going to get into. And I could imagine, you know, if you had professional riding dreams when you got your crash. That
Yeah,
really
no,
crazy.
well, it's funny you say that because the year, like when I crashed was in July, but that riding season was definitely the most hungry I had been for maybe that pro dream. Like I finally got sponsored by Nolly Bikes in the following winter. And that spring leading up to it, I was just riding so much. And I was feeling like by far the best I'd ever felt on the bike. And I was finally at a point, and that was when freeride was starting to like really take off with like Fest Series and like Black Sage and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, like maybe, you know, maybe it could happen. I was finally feeling at a place on the bike where I was like, oh, this, you know, this could happen. I'm going to really give her this year and try and see where this goes, you know? Like, I was so motivated going into that season to really give it a college try to maybe see where my biking could go. More motivated than I'd ever been before, for sure.
Yeah, I remember, like, kind of hearing about you and stuff. And
oh, really?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and because I always like to keep my pulse pretty close. And
yeah.
And, I remember hearing about you, but it wasn't too long before I heard about you, and then I also heard about your crash.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe we should kind of start tippy-toeing into the crash.
Yeah.
Like what was but maybe before we got into the crash, like, so you have this work-life balance. Can you maybe like paint a picture of like what your life was like leading up to the crash?
Yeah. So I would usually work 4/10s, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 4. And then I'd get the 3-day weekend. So Thursday after work, I actually ended up driving up to Kamloops a lot because it's kind of the free ride spot in BC, you know, lots of big jumps.
Shout out Kamloops.
Yeah. And then I would just ride Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, I had some other friends that were into riding, but for the most part, especially that year, I was just riding every weekend. And then after work, I would just go to Airrec. And that was kind of the program I was on for a bit there. It was just like, get off work. If I wasn't too tired, go to Airrec. And then on the weekend, just leave Langley and go ride somewhere. And I was just doing that, just progressing.
So like huge strain on your body, using your body.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily electrical it's physically demanding because it's construction. But of all the trades, it's like probably the least physically demanding of all of them. So most days after work, I would not be too gassed and I could go ride, which was super sick. But definitely some Mondays after the full weekend of riding, I was such a bag at work. Like, the guys would be like, what happened to you? Like, limping around the job site. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be broken at home. I'm not getting paid at home. So I just drag my ass to work every Monday. And yeah, there were some tough weeks. I almost needed like a weekend for my weekend, it felt like. And that was like work. Yeah.
Totally. So what age were you when you had your accident?
Ooh, so that was in 2021. So I'm turning 27 this year. Do some quick math. I would have been turning 23 that year. Turning 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So hungry young man.
Yeah, definitely
living his
fired
best
up.
life.
Yeah, for sure.
So what happened? If you can recall, let's go to your crash, and maybe you could just tell people what what happened
And
really
then
quickly,
go, yeah.
and then let's go back and into the day you crashed and like what the day looked like.
Yeah. I'll actually go back a day even.
Okay,
so
cool.
I broke my neck, completely blew up my C5 vertebrae, and the surgeon only gave me a 5% chance of ever walking again. So that's what happened on July.
That's insane.
Yeah, July 6, 2021. So then we'll go back. So I was in Kamloops riding on the weekend. I was also met a girl, so it was perfect. I'd come up to Kamloops, I'd ride, and then I'd stay at her house. Place to stay. She was super cool. So
Living the dream.
Living
23.
the dream. It was awesome.
23.
Yeah,
That's the dream. Yeah.
And then of course I ended up staying in Kamloops. It was a Sunday. No, it was a holiday Monday, and I stayed in Kamloops till 1 a.m. or something ridiculous, and then drove back to Langley, which is a 3-hour drive. So I got home at 4 a.m., slept for 2 hours, then went to work, and then I got off work, and I was so tired, and all the boys were riding good friend Chance Moore's house. He lived like 5-minute drive from me in Langley, up-and-coming slopestyle phenom, Chance Moore.
Incredible rider.
Yeah, watch out for him. So all the boys were riding his compound at his house there, and he has an airbag landing. And I'd never rode an airbag landing, and I was never super keen on airbag landings. Just heard of a lot of guys getting hurt from them. I was more of like an airbag mulch jump kind of guy. So I show up to the sesh, I'm just hanging out, super tired, watching the boys ride. And then, of course, the guys are like, why didn't you bring your bike? Like, go get your bike. There's still time to ride. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just had a crazy day, crazy weekend. Like, I just had a sick weekend riding. Probably fine. And they're like, come on, bro. Like, the sesh is sick. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I drive home, get my bike. Kind of had a bad feeling about it.
Wow, so you drove home to get your bike. My goodness.
Yeah. I left the sesh because it was close enough. I could do it. And there was still like 2 hours of light left. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go get my bike. Got the bike, padded up quick. Wasn't going to do anything crazy on the airbag. Just couple straight airs, hang with the boys, Then the sesh got going. I rode it a couple times. I'm like, maybe this thing isn't as bad as I thought. Still a little sketched out by it. And then it was probably like my 6th or 7th hit. I just did a flip tuck no-hander. Been doing that trick for so long. It was like the first trick I ever learned, I think. And I just flip tucked and then fumbled my hands, like getting my hands back on the bars. But because it was an airbag landing, I didn't like topple over. It kind of like grabbed me and took me in for the ride. So I was fighting to get my hands back on the handlebars, and I was super over the front end. And then where the airbag levels out and goes to the ground, there was like a foot drop off. So you had to be like kind of dialed when you left the bag. And I was still super over the front end. I finally got my hands back on the bars proper, and I was like trying to shift my way back, but it was too late. And I went off the end of the airbag and just went right over the handlebars and drove my head straight down into the gravel. And then that's what caused my neck to break.
So it wasn't the actual bag?
No. I think if it was a jump, like, or a mulch jump, I obviously would have biffed it for sure. Like, I would have just toppled over because I, like, didn't have a good grip and I was kind of, like, all over the front. But the airbag, like, sometimes will just, like, kind of grab you and take you for the ride almost. Like, if you were to do it on a normal jump, sometimes you would slam, but the airbag can kind of save you. So I think that's what happened, to the best of my memory and asking my friends, obviously. But, so then I fell, and the crazy part was I didn't lose consciousness. I was wide awake, laid out on the ground, and then the boy, obviously, like, I wasn't moving, and I remember laying there being like, oh wow, this might be the bad one. I couldn't feel anything, couldn't move anything, was just laid out. But luckily, Chance's dad, who never watches us ride, like total fluke, was driving up the hill as I crashed and watched the whole thing go down. And he has lots of like medical experience. And instantly he ran over and threw me in C-spine, which for anyone who doesn't know, C-spine, if you ever see someone like take a bad fall, like C-spine's the best thing you can do. Get them onto their back and you just take your hands and like brace their head, so their neck doesn't move. And I'm convinced that's part of the reason why I made the recovery I did, because from the moment I crashed till the operating table, I was in C-spine. And it just preserved so many nerves in my neck and kept them from breaking. So, yeah, big shout out to Chance's dad. He saved the day, because all my buddies there, you know, we've seen each other crash, but we've never seen a major injury like that. They probably would have tried to get me up on my feet, which is probably one of the worst things they could have done, you know? So, yeah, they threw me in C-spine, got my helmet off, and I remember, I think it was Chance or something. They were like just running through because I said I couldn't feel anything, and I'm like, oh boys, this might be the bad one. You know, I can't move anything. They're starting to freak out, but then they would pinch my toes as hard as they could, and I was actually like able to faintly feel it, like which toe was which. So I had a very, very faint feeling, and then Chance's dad was like, oh man, you're probably fine, you know, like you might have just pinched a nerve in your neck, like you might be all good. And I'm like,
oh my God,
oh sweet. I kind of knew that wasn't the case, but it was a nice little thing to think about. So yeah, and then ambulance showed up, got me all gassed up, and took me to the hospital.
So when you crashed the first time, you know, and you're laying on the ground, and I can't believe that Chance's dad was there to pull you in C-spine.
And he like never watches anyone. Like doesn't watch the sessions. I don't know why, but just instantly it was the craziest turn of events.
It's crazy because no 23-year-old really knows how to throw you in C-spine.
No, now all the boys do though, you know, for sure. And I remember being on the ground and being like, oh, because it was pretty early into the sesh. We just started riding. I'd only hit the bag 5 or 6 times. I'm like, oh, sorry, boys. Like, hate to ruin the sesh. And they're like, dude, stop. Like, what do you mean, you know? Like, you're fine. Like, don't worry about ruining the sesh.
You know, that's crazy. That's one of the first things that, like, a lot of people feel that. Like,
yeah, I was just, like, bummed. I'm like, oh, I'm such a buzz killer, you know? Like, oh, the ambulance is going to have to come. Like, what a mood killer, you know?
Like, Braden Barrett.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he got hurt at the ranch and I took him to the hospital, and he's just apologizing.
Yeah.
The whole time. And actually, when I crashed that loop, I was apologizing the whole time.
I was like, sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
It's just the first thing you think, you know? It's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry to do this to my friends and family. I remember I called my dad because I was like, I can't call my mom. She'll probably freak out. And then my dad starts freaking out on the phone. I'm like, Dad, you got to clutch up right now. You know, I called you, not Mom. Like, just meet me at this hospital. That's where.
Okay, wait. Before we get too far ahead.
All right.
Because that is an insane moment that I like really want to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but before we get into that, because that's huge. I can't even imagine having that phone call. Is like almost makes my gut just want to like puke. Man, let's go back to the time when the ambulance showed up. How long did it take for the ambulance to show up from your crash, and what was the ride like to the hospital?
So the ambulance showed up pretty quick. I think like 20 minutes, maybe 15, 20. And, you know, I was just chatting with the boys. Wasn't really sure what the circumstances were yet.
Was there pain?
No pain at all. It was crazy. Like, just the weirdest feeling. Like, not being able to move anything, not really feeling anything, not knowing, like, what happened. Because it was just like a freak crash, you know? So it was just, the whole thing was weird.
You're concussed?
Probably. But, like, it was just crazy I didn't lose consciousness. Like, it was just a freak accident, you know? And just, I remember, like, kind of chatting with the boys, they were trying to keep my spirits high. But the funny part is, I remember the ambulance ride to the hospital because there was a young lady, ambulance tech, and I guess when you break your neck or have a spinal cord injury, your dick is hard after. And so I'm just in the ambulance and they're cutting my pants off and I'm just fully torqued. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know why this is happening. And she's like, don't be embarrassed. This happens all the time to spinal cord patients. I'm like, okay, so this is normal? And she's like, totally normal. It's fine. And I'm just riding in the ambulance fully torqued because she cut my pants, like cut me up, like cut my clothes off or whatever to assess me.
Is that thing just flying?
So funny, man. You can see the videos of me getting trucked off to the ambulance and just the bulge in the pants.
It's funny, but it's so not funny.
No,
at the
I
same
know.
time, because that
Yeah.
means that you have a spinal cord injury.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. But like I said, I didn't know what was really happening in the situation. And at that point, they had me, I think, on the laughing gas or whatever they give people right away, that stuff they gas you up with on your mouth. I don't know what that was, but so I was feeling no pain at that point for sure.
So, do you know why that happens now?
No idea. Yeah, maybe as your body's in shock or something. Yeah, I didn't look into it, but that's why I remember that. And then the guy actually, I remember him because he rode a nollie bike, and I was like, no, I'm like, he's like, sick, so you're obviously big into mountain biking. I am too. I'm like, oh, sick, what kind of bike do you have? He's like, oh, I have a nollie. I'm like, no way, I ride for nollie. And then we broke down on that on the way to the hospital too. Those are the two things I remember going to the hospital. That's about it, though. I was pretty drugged up on the way there.
So, how was your experience when you got to the hospital?
So the whole next, I'd say, day is super patchy. I'm guessing because of the drugs they had me on. But so the ambulance took me to a hospital in New West first. And I remember just it was like the weirdest uncomfortable feeling because I couldn't feel or move anything, but I just felt uncomfortable because I was on a spine board, which isn't really comfy.
Oh man, how long?
I was on the spine board, so I probably crashed around 6 or 7, and I didn't get operated on till 4 or 5 a.m. the next day. So I was on the spine board for a good 12 hours.
Jesus.
And they were just keeping me on the spine board. So they took me to the first hospital, x-rayed me, told, like, my parents were there at that point, and then they told me, like, okay, you didn't just pinch a nerve in your neck, like, your son totally blew up his C5 vertebrae, and we need to get him in for surgery right away. But they didn't do that, the New West hospital, so they transferred me to VGH, which apparently has one of the best spinal surgeon teams in Canada.
Wow.
So super thankful to live where I do. And they called my surgeon, Dr. Alon. Shout out to him. He's probably one of the reasons why I'm walking today. They called him up like 4 a.m. and he came to the hospital and, yeah, did the surgery like 4 or 5 a.m. And that whole period of time from like the ambulance ride to the first hospital and then like the surgery, I don't really remember much. I just remember kind of like being with my parents and like they're like, oh, it's going to be okay, and just being slightly uncomfortable. But I do remember right before I think I remember. I'm pretty confident I do. Right before my surgery, I like looked up and there was like 7 or 8 masked up people, like all the surgeons and helpers, like all just like looked over and they're like, you're going to be okay, Jake. And I was like, holy smokes. Like, I think I prayed to God. I was like, I've never done this before, but if there's a God, like, please let this go well. And then I just remember, then I don't remember anything. And then I like woke up the following day. But the whole following day in the hospital is a little fuzzy as well, just because of the drugs they had me on and stuff.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about, I want to take a couple steps back. And
yeah, sorry, I was kind of rambling
it's all good.
on there.
It's all good. I just want to dig into, I'd like to dig into when the doctors told you what happened. You know, like when did they tell you what happened and when did you make that phone call to your parents?
So I made the phone call to my parents while I was on the ground at Chance's house, because Chance's dad was like, hey, like, yo, you got to call your parents. Like, this is no joke. So I called my dad and I was like, hey, man, like, I had a really bad crash. I don't know what the deal is, but I can't move anything. Can't imagine being my dad getting that phone call, like, your son was mountain biking and now he can't move anything below his shoulders and can barely feel anything. Like, the thoughts going through his head, worst case scenario, you know, like that's like the worst thing you dream of, right?
Totally.
So then they just talked to the ambulance people or whoever relayed the message, but my mom and dad were at the hospital like with me, like they were there when I showed up, I guess. Like I don't remember much of all that, but I do remember them being there with me for the x-rays. And then I like don't really remember that well them telling like us that I ended up breaking my neck. It's just all super fuzzy because of the drugs they had me on. And then, so yeah, I don't, like, I knew I had broken my neck, but I didn't know the severity or what the surgery was going to look like or what the chances were of me walking again. Like, I think I was just being optimistic. Like, okay, I broke my neck, you know, like, I'll probably get surgery and be fine, right? And then, yeah.
So that 5%, did they tell you that before or after?
No. So my parents pulled an all-nighter with me, obviously. The surgery went down at 4 or 5 a.m. And then I think it was a pretty lengty surgery. But my dad ran into the surgeon in the cafeteria of the hospital at like 9 a.m. the next day. And he's like, oh my God, like, how'd the surgery go? Because he hadn't heard anything yet because I was still like coming out of sedation, I guess, and stuff. And they like hadn't relayed the message to them.
Yeah.
So and the surgeon's like, oh yeah, like the surgery went super well. Like couldn't have gone any better. My dad's like, awesome. Like, so how long do you think we'll be here? And then the surgeon looked at him and was like, you don't understand. Your son just broke his neck. This is very serious. Like, that's when they told him, like, he probably has a 5% chance of ever walking again. Like, giddy up. You're going to be in the hospital for a while. And then, so that must have been such a toll for my parents because they had no idea, right? Like, they thought it was just going to be surgery, maybe a couple days in the hospital, go home. But that is when they got that news. I can't imagine what was going through their head. So then they didn't tell me for like my chances of walking again. They just told me surgery went well because I was still pretty loopy the day I after surgery. But I think they told me the second or third day after I'd been in the hospital because they weaned me off the drugs. Because I was pretty adamant from when I woke up. I'm like, I don't want to be on the drugs. Like, I don't want the painkillers. I'm not in any pain. Like, I want to be level-headed.
I want to feel it.
Yeah, and it was weird. Like, I've broken so many other bones and they've all hurt so bad, but the neck was the chillest for pain. There was no pain whatsoever, but nothing really worked. So it was just a trip.
That's got to be insane.
Yeah. Like after surgery, when I woke up, I guess because when I initially crashed, I couldn't move anything, but when I woke up from surgery, I could just raise my arms with my shoulders, and my left leg I could like wiggle back and forth, and that was it. And I had super weak sensation, like feeling from my knees to basically like my pecs. I could hardly feel anything. Like you could have stabbed me and I wouldn't even be able to tell you. But then from like my chest up and my knees down, I actually had really good sensation. So they were hopeful that like some movement would come back, but it was all like they had no idea what would happen. Yeah.
So do you, now looking back, like what happens for most people in that circumstance? Most people don't get much more. No.
For the crazy part for me was my recovery happened so fast, but for a lot of people with spinal cord injuries, they don't see much progress until the 6-month mark.
Really?
Yeah, which is super odd. But I started seeing progress like relatively quickly after. So yeah, for like I couldn't imagine not being able to move anything for 6 months and then having it come back. That would be such a crazier scenario.
Yeah, shout out to everyone with a spinal cord injury. This is insane.
Oh, and the craziest part of all is same guy who broke his C5 vertebrae, say exact same break as me, exact same surgery, everything, completely different scenario. So you can't like base your recovery off of anyone else because every spinal cord injury is unique and different to itself. So it's not like, oh, I tore my MCL. You can like look at a bunch of other people that tore their MCLs and like base your recovery off of that. The spinal cord injury, completely different every case.
Did you watch the Paul Bass movie?
Yeah, I watched it before I broke my neck, and it definitely freaked me out a little bit, and I felt really weird riding bikes for like a week after, and then kind of tried to forget about it. And then I watched it like 3 months into my recovery with my family, and man, because I literally went through everything he did, and it was just so relatable and so much more crazy. Yeah.
I was going to ask.
Shout out to Paul Bass, because he was a huge inspiration for me going through that going through that whole. I'm like, oh, he did it, you know, like all those guys that had been through something similar. Even you with the loop, dude, you pretty much, if like as far as like not breaking your neck or back, your scenario was also insane, you know, like pretty much broke everything.
Totally.
And you're told you weren't going to ride again, you know.
But it's I feel like spinal cord is another level.
It's definitely another level, but I found it easy to relate to people like you, and then obviously Paul Bass, who broke him, but just other people that have gotten severely broken off and then made a full recovery. Just huge inspos.
Yeah, shout out to Paul B and everyone, because there's so many other guys that we never hear about.
Yeah.
And you're like the 1% in that situation, because most people accept what the doctors say, and they, you know, it's easy to give up, you know, a lot of the times. And I don't know, my situation was horrific, but it's why I can sit here and talk to you with it.
Yeah, you get it.
I have some sort of understanding.
Yeah.
I feel like Spinal Cord, watching Paul Bass's movie, and when I watched that, I was like, that's definitely another level. Like high impact fractures are different. Like they can fuse your joints. You have pain every step, but you're still stepping. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're still moving. Everything's working.
Yeah, so I would definitely choose a high impact fracture, and that's basically a severe fracture that might not recover well compared to like a spinal cord, but whatever. Yeah.
So maybe you know what's crazy is I'll just say what the surgery did, because like medical science is nuts. Like what they did to my neck. Yeah. So I'll get into that. So they basically cut me open from the front of my neck, moved my esophagus and windpipe out of the way, like stretched it out to the side. They went in, grabbed as much of the blown up C5 vertebrae as they could, cleaned it out. They put a little like bird cage in where the C5 vertebrae went, and then there's a little tab on the up and the down and the bottom. And the way the surgeon explained it to me is he basically took like his impact drill, like his Makita or Milwaukee, but doctor version, and drilled the cage into my C6 and C4 vertebrae. So now I just have this mega vertebrae that are completely fused together. But then they crushed up the remaining bits of the bone and put it in the cage, and then cranked my blood pressure the first week or two I was in the hospital for like the bone, to help the bone regrow in my neck.
Wow.
Crazy, bro.
That is insane.
Nuts.
That is insane.
Yeah.
You know, I heard of them like my wrist, for instance, they put like a gel in.
Oh yeah.
Like they shoot like a gel that turns to bone.
Oh, crazy.
But I never heard of them actually crushing it and putting it in a cage.
And put it in the cage. Yeah, it was so wild, man.
Wow.
Like medical science is nuts.
Okay, so before we get too carried away, let's I think we were, you know, you were a couple days in the hospital and this is all starting to set in.
Yeah.
What is going through your head?
So obviously the first day or two I was super spacey because like the drugs they had me on and stuff. And then when my parents, like once I was off all the painkillers and stuff, my parents, that's when they told me. They sat me down and they're like, hey, like I know you obviously can tell you can't move a lot of your muscles right now, but the surgeons told us that you only have a 5% chance of ever walking again and regaining your muscle. So obviously that day was super emotional.
Are you close with your parents?
Oh yeah, super close. Like,
so that was insane.
Insane. And even just to see, like, so obviously had a bit of a mental breakdown, as you would, you know, finding out you're probably never going to walk again, let alone ride.
All the things you love.
All the things, you know, like everything. Like that's literally taking away your freedom in a sense. So I think, for like 3 or 4 hours, you know, I was just crying with my parents. We're like, just broke down. But then I think part of it was I saw how sad they were. And I knew just based on like other injuries and like hearing of other people's stories that being in a negative mindset is not going to help this at all. So I was super bummed for a couple hours. And then I was like, okay, like the only chance I have of being the 5% is to turn this attitude around right now and just be, okay, yeah, let's go. I'm going to be the 5% and just be extremely stubborn and almost it sounds crazy, but like just to see my parents that emotional, I was like, okay, like I almost have to be a rock for them in this scenario and be like, no guys, like it's fine. I'm going to be that 5%. Like, don't worry. Don't stress it. I got this, like it's going to be fine. And I was just that dumb stubborn throughout my whole process, and it paid off for sure.
Jesus. There must have been moments though where you...
Oh yeah, but the really good thing about my recovery was the instant progress. Like if I would have been in that same boat for 6 months, it would have been a lot gnarlier. But like it seemed almost like every day or every second day something new would work on my body. So I just got so lucky that way. And I always said it was so nice being a mountain biker. I couldn't imagine just breaking your neck and never have hurting yourself before. But all the previous injuries I'd had, like breaking my leg, collarbone, whatever, right? I knew like how to go about it. Like you really focus on the little victories of, oh, I moved a new arm today, like let's go. Let just ride the wave of the victories and never think about the like, I still can't walk. I'm probably never going to walk again. Just focus on those little wins, like everyday progress, and just try and like, obviously some days there were some sad moments, but having those little wins and progresses pretty quick after my surgery was huge. It was huge for everyone, my family, friends. Like I could give people updates like, oh man, like I moved my left knee today. I wasn't able to do that yesterday, and just riding those accomplishments. So it was almost like all my previous injuries were like the beginning rounds, and then the broken neck was like the final boss level of like a recovery. You know what I mean?
So eventually you're making all this progress, right?
Yeah.
There must have been a point where the progress started to stop.
Honestly, no. Like there was some times where new muscles wouldn't come, but because I think I was walking again 10 weeks after surgery. So from surgery till then, considering I could only move my arms and my left leg, like almost every day or every third day, something good would happen that I could focus on and be like, okay, like, yeah.
And then what was your self-talk to focus on that? Because there's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of thoughts.
A lot of thoughts for sure. I think that it was also huge having, like breaking myself in my hometown, like having all my friends, they would come to visit me all the time. So I would have a lot of distractions, which was huge. Like my parents were so cool. They'd come visit me every day. I'd have friends come visit me almost every day. The biking community, man, like the sickest thing ever. I always knew it was super cool, but then just the way the biking community rallied together when I broke my neck, like there were pros messaging me that I looked up to my whole life who I'd never met and would just send me a massive paragraph like, yo man, you got this, like you're gonna crush this, like it's gonna be fine. And just like seeing the support, like my support system throughout that whole injury was really one of the things that helped me progress so fast and get me through it 100%.
I think that's huge. Like if anyone right now is listening and you have someone who's hurt and someone, reach out, and if you can, go see them and 100%. Just spend some time with them.
Yeah, because it's just a distraction, right? You're just kind of, it's not like it was before, but at least you have someone to talk to, and it's like you're not constantly just thinking about what's going on.
But, inevitably, you're going to be in the hospital alone.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some moments.
You know what was crazy was, like, obviously I'd have these super positive moments and focus, but then there were definitely some negatives. Like, I don't know if it was when I was in the hospital or rehab, but it kind of like set in that my life wasn't going to necessarily maybe be the same. Even if I did walk out of there, I wasn't going to be gnarly on the bike anymore. And I almost had like a weird personality, ego death thing where I was like, are my friends even going to like me anymore? Because like in my friend groups outside of biking, I was kind of always that guy, jump off the highest cliff, whatever, push the envelope in all scenarios. I'm like, are people still going to think I'm cool if I can't like ride bikes anymore? And I was like, is there more to me than just mountain biking and stuff? And I for sure had a weird sort of ego check where I was like, oh man, like maybe that's all people like me for is because I like to get gnarly and stuff, you know? And that was hard for sure.
Was that in the hospital or?
Yeah, I think it was in the hospital, and then it was kind of lingering throughout the rehab like process.
So when, how long were you in the hospital for?
So I was in the hospital for 3 weeks before I got transferred to GF Strong Rehab Center.
Oh, okay, so there's a rehab center. Okay, so let's just stick in the hospital for a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah,
That
for
is,
sure.
that is. I also went through something super similar like that. I think it's just part of the
Ego death thing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a part of the process when someone tells you that, like, hey, man, like, your old life, like, say
Yeah.
goodbye.
Yeah,
Like,
especially
it's
when
over.
all the doctors are just telling you like, you're not gonna ride again.
Yeah, like these super smart people.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you're not going to ride again.
But I was kind of dumb, like, just thinking like, oh, the doctors always give you worst case scenario, you know, with everything. Like, oh, it's gonna take you 8 weeks to heal this. Healed it in 4, like just from previous injuries. So I'm like, oh, they're just telling me it's 95%, but it's gonna be fine. And I was just like so stubborn about it.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I look up to you, bro.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That
yeah.
mental game's crazy. For me, it wasn't the same. Like, I remember, you know, when they were telling me all this stuff, what really hit me was when they were like, yeah, you're never even going to work a labor job.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
labor's out of the question.
Uh-huh.
And that was like, wow, because
am I
everything
gonna
was
do?
physical.
Yeah.
Everything I did was physical. And I was just like, I couldn't believe it. It was like my whole entire world I went to zero.
Yeah, literally. I totally get it. And it was crazy to see my parents going through it too. Like my mom's like, well, I'm going to have to sell the house. We live in a 3-story apartment. How are you going to get around in a 3-story apartment with a wheelchair? She's like looking at ranchers. I'm like, whoa, mom, pump the brakes.
So she's looking at while you're in the hospital?
Like selling her house and like looking at how much a rancher's going to cost. My stepmom was talking about quitting her job to be my care person because depending on how my rehab went, I might have needed a full-time care aide by my side to help me get around the house. And I was telling everyone, I'm like, guys, like, I got that 5% chance. Let's pump the brakes here. It's only been a week or 2. Let's not sell the house or anything crazy. Let's get to the rehab center and see how it goes.
Okay, so how was your progress up to the rehab center, and what was your transition like?
The hardest part, like I'll say a couple hard things about the hospital. So the way they did my surgery, because they had to move my windpipe and esophagus out of the way, when they put it back, it was so sore and tender that I had to be on a breathing apparatus and a feeding tube. So at first couple days, they like gave me my nutrients through an IV drip. But then after a week, they put me on a feeding tube. So anyone who doesn't know what a feeding tube is, this was one of the worst parts of the whole process. They shoved, I don't know, maybe a 1/4-inch tube through my nose, around the back, and I was awake for this. And then they had to try and snipe my esophagus. And I remember, I don't know what the problem was with mine, but they could not find my esophagus, and they kept hitting my windpipe. And I would just be like, the feeling of something going up your nose and around back was horrible. Like, it took them 45 minutes to find the esophagus, and whenever they'd hit the windpipe, I would like lose my breath. Like, then finally they got the one nurse in, and he pulled it off like right away, got it in. And then not like before the hospital, I loved food, and I loved eating good and cooking good, and I loved drinking water. Like, I would crush water. And I couldn't drink or eat anything for 3 weeks.
Jesus.
And I was always thirsty. Like, always thirsty. I'd be like, yo, give me some more water through the nose. And it just would never quench your thirst, because it's just the feeling of the water going down your throat is so nice. But I was hydrated because they were getting me all my nutrients, but just like the constant feeling of being thirsty was so shitty. Oh, I hated it. And I remember they'd let my parents, like, they had a little sponge and they could sponge the inside of my mouth, but I'd always like cheat and just swallow a little bit. And they're like, you can't do that, because they were worried of the reason they had the feed tube in, they were worried of me aspirating. So aspirating is when if I was to drink some water and say I didn't swallow it and digest it, and it like came back out and went into my lungs, I could like essentially drown myself. So that's why I had to be on the feed tube for a while. That thing was brutal. And then just all the other parts, like, man, I was a really independent guy before the hospital. Like, I didn't like to ask anyone for anything.
Yeah.
And you really realize like that when you need people for absolutely everything, like crap in your pants, you know, the nurses gotta come clean you up, just water, food, like hygiene, everything. I could not do anything for myself. It was insane. So that was really hard, just being that reliant on. And honestly, shout out to nurses, man. They deserve to get paid so much more money than they do, because some of the stuff they have to deal with, like,
it's insane.
Like, some people are so mean to their nurses. And I'd look over, I'm like, what is your problem? These are the only people keeping us alive. Like, you should be praising them and like bowing down to them, because they're just so selfless.
They don't get enough credit.
No, not at all. Just cleaning up my poopy pants. At least they all liked me because I was super nice and friendly to them. Like, oh my God, like, thank you so much. I'm so embarrassed. Some people would just swear at them all day. I'm like, dude, like, insane. These people are literally taking care of you.
Yeah, I found it really hard too. Like, I also had to crap my pants and
oh yeah
in the hospital. And
yeah,
it's like, man, I never got the tube, but the catheters really got me.
Oh, dude, the catheters, man. Oh, the catheters. Yeah, I had some brutal times with those things, especially. We'll get into that, especially at the rehab center, man. Oh, but talking about crap in your pants. So I remember the girl I was seeing in Kamloops at the time. I remember like when I could barely talk because the surgery like ruined my voice or whatever. But once I could finally talk, it was like the 2 or 3 days after, I had to give her a call because I was seeing her for a couple of weeks, and I was like, you know, I was not looking forward to this conversation because I was super into her. I was like gonna lock her down for girlfriend for sure, right? So I call her. I'm like, hey, I can't really talk too good, but you're probably gonna want to move on because, like, I told my parents to tell her beforehand, but like,
yeah,
it's not looking too good. I'm gonna be a cripple probably. Like, I don't want you to be burdened with this. Like, I don't want you to like just move on. Basically, I was like, please move on. And she was like, no, I'm in it for the ride. And I was like, do you understand what this is like? I'm probably going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. She's like, no, I'm down. And I'm like, all right, like, do you want to be my girlfriend? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, yeah, I can't talk anymore. My throat's getting sore. And I hung up the phone. I was like, what? Like, no way. That's not how I thought that was going to go.
That's a huge win.
Dude, insane. So she came down to visit me the following weekend, and yeah, first date, fully crapped my pants like 10 minutes in. I was just like, we were just chatting in the bed.
I love this story.
Oh yeah, just chatting in the bed, and I'm like, oh. And then the nurse is over there, and she's like, Katie, it is. You're probably gonna want to leave for this because we have to clean him up. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, babe. I just crapped my pants. Like, I don't want you to see this. Like, please go in the hallway for the next 20 minutes while they clean me up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then
talk about starting a relationship at the bottom. Couldn't move anything. Crap my pants. Yeah.
So what was that like? That must have been so hard.
Dude, I was so nervous for our first date because I couldn't do anything. I was just stuck in the bed, could barely move anything. I'm like, what are we gonna do? I like downloaded some movies. I'm like, maybe we could watch a movie. But we just chatted the whole time, and it was super awesome. Yeah, I don't know. And then obviously embarrassing when I crapped my pants, but she saw that right away, and she was there for the whole ride. So that was just the tip of the iceberg, really.
It's crazy. So
yeah.
I love that story, and I remember hearing that one for the first time.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
I'm still with her to this day. Shout out Katie, she's the best.
She is amazing.
Super crazy. Shows the true colors of a person. If you're down to start a relationship with someone who's probably never maybe gonna walk again and be in a wheelchair, like, man, I don't even know what she was going through, but pretty cool, pretty special person.
It is super cool, and it's also really cool to hear how your support system is kind of helping you, because we're kind of, you're painting the story of your recovery, and you're going through all these terrible things, and the odds are not looking good, but it's almost like everyone coming to support you gave you this extra strength to like dig down and
dude, yeah, it gave me that extra boost. Like, I'm gonna be this 5% for everyone who's there helping me.
For my new girlfriend,
she was such a rock through the whole thing. Like, even when I was feeling down, she'd just boost me right back up, like FaceTime me, whatever. And then just for my family as well, being so supportive, friends, biking community, I was like, I got this for them, you know? Like, it was just such an extra like motivator to like all these people that are helping me out. It was crazy.
So, now that we're kind of painted the picture of your horrible hospital stay,
yeah,
which is honestly kind of nice. It feels like it's kind of filled with a lot of love.
Yeah, no, for sure. A lot of love. But
still terrible.
Yeah. A lot of time laid up in the bed. I did some crazy stuff as well. I think it worked. I'm not too sure. But because I had so much time in the bed, they would get me in for physio at the hospital, but it wouldn't be much. And parents would like wheel my wheelchair outside. But I had a lot of free time, you know?
Yeah.
And you can only watch so many movies. But I never really meditated much before. But I was like, I have all this free time. I would just lay in bed, close my eyes, do some like meditative breathing that I had done a little bit before, like I dabbled in.
What was it, if you don't mind?
So I would just like breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth, and just like breathe like deep breaths for a long time, 15, 20 minutes or so. And then the parts of my body I could feel really good, I would just really focus in on them until I was in like a pretty deep breath work kind of scenario. And then I would just imagine I would pick a part every day, like a part of my body. I'd be like, okay, left hand fingers. And I would just, in my meditative state, just like imagine like the nerves going down my spine and then like going out of my spinal cord or whatever and just like going to my hand. And I would just like visualize that for hours all day. Like I would do like 4 to 5 hours of just me like breathing, meditating, just like imagining those nerve pathways, like reconnecting. I don't know if it worked, but it might have.
That had to help.
It had to have helped. Like, and I was listening to lots of podcasts about meditation and stuff like that. Like, because I had all this free time, I was listening to podcasts about people recovering from injuries and stuff. And I was like, well, I wasn't big into that before. I'm like, sounds a little hippy dippy, but anything can work right now. And I honestly think it helped for sure.
I think it did
imagining
too,
those nerve pathways just being reconnected.
The mind is insane.
It's crazy, man.
And
super crazy.
I'll just do an example. Like one of the craziest guys I know about the mind is Sam Hodges, monster rider,
oh, really?
Darkfest.
Yeah.
He like doesn't really ride before Darkfest.
Ever.
No, he doesn't ride much, and then he will show up like on his downhill bike
and do a flip Superman Z grab on the biggest mountain bike jump.
Oh, he thinks about it in his head.
Yeah,
like over and over and over again.
Yeah, the visualization.
And listening to a couple podcasts about it, and there's also a book about. I don't think I'll be able to put it in the show notes because I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a rifle shooter.
Oh, crazy!
And he's like, can't shoot his gun for like 2 years. And he just like he's going to the Olympics, but he can't shoot. So he just over and over again visualizes himself going through the process of shooting.
Yeah.
And then gets a medal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Dude, visualization in the mind is nuts, man. It's crazy.
Okay, so you're visualizing.
Yeah.
You're getting ready. So you said that you started walking 10 weeks after surgery?
Yeah, 10 weeks after.
Okay, so you've been in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
So when I was when I left the hospital, and the whole time in the hospital, the goal is to get to GF Strong. And sometimes it all just depends because they only have a certain amount of beds at
What
GF
is
Strong.
GF Strong?
GF Strong is a rehab center in Vancouver. It's only 5 minutes away from the hospital for spinal cord patients, basically. And it's one of the best rehab facilities in Canada. So I was, again, super fortunate to live in Vancouver. Like, people will get flown to GF Strong from all other provinces because of like how well known this is. So it's very hard to get into. So the whole time, but they only will accept you when you don't have like a lot of medical problems that you would need to be in a hospital for. And I was still having a lot of issues. Like, they weren't super stoked to take me because I was still on the feed tube. And I had a lot of issues where, so you know when you're at the dentist and they use the suck machine to like suck the water out of your mouth or whatever, I had to have one of those things like taped to my hands at all times because I couldn't swallow. I would just get like the craziest phlegm build up, and I would have to like get my parents to like suck my mouth out, or else I'd like choke on it. And sometimes it would like build up so bad that the nurse or my dad would have to like almost like punch my chest to like get the phlegm out so I could like breathe again. So I was like undergoing a lot of hospital things, and they wouldn't take me at GF until I was ready. But I was the whole time like, yo, I got to get to GF because GF is like that next step in the process. I see GF as like the next goal. I gotta get there. And then a bed opened up, and like the doctor like came in, and he's like, I don't know, like you still have some lingering things. I'm like, no, man, like get me there. Like I'll be fine. You know, I was just so motivated, and they got me in there. So thankful, because GF is not like the hospital. Like you get your own bedroom, you know, like there's all the help you need, but the physio gets ramped up so much more, and that's where you really start to see the progress. So I was like super motivated to get out of the hospital, and because hospitals are kind of depressing places, and you know, I'd been there for 3 weeks. Change of scenery was going to be sweet.
Totally.
Yeah. So then, yeah, they got me to GF there.
Hospitals can be pretty heavy, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The worst.
Okay. So what you said, the physio ramped up a bit. How did it ramp up?
Once I got to GF?
Yeah.
So at GF, I had a physiotherapist, an occupational therapist, and a doctor like on deck at all times. And every single day I would have a 1 hour occupational therapist session, a 1 hour physio session, and then the doctor for whenever I needed it. But once I got to GF, and like the first week I was still super weak, and they were like some muscles hadn't come back yet, but I saw they have like a gym there, a pool there. They have like everything there to help you rehab. And I was like, I would do my 2 sessions a day, and I'd be like, hey, like I'm just kind of sitting around for the rest of the day here. Like, do you guys mind if I just come have a couple more? Like, I don't need my physio lady. I know what I need to do. Like, can I just like come hit the gym? And they're like, oh, usually people just do their 2 hours and then they're too tired. I'm like, no, like I need
some overtime.
I'm here to get better. Like, let's go. So I would just be in the gym for like hours of the day, just like doing the same sort of physio exercises.
Yeah. So what kind of exercises?
So when I got to GF Strong, my right leg still wasn't working at all, but my left leg, most of the motor function had come back, and my arms were working, and my left hand just started to work. So it was mostly like building muscles in the left leg and like hand. It wasn't like your typical workout at the gym. It was all like kind of weird physio things, just to like, based on my prognosis, to like certain muscle groups, like, oh, just like reach out with the band, you know, get that left arm moving, get the right arm moving. So it was all super basic, but they would give me exercises I could do on my own, so I could just keep ramping it up, sort of thing.
So you're ramping it up.
Yeah,
you're in this facility.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy that they're surprised.
Yeah, it's a super weird vibe at the rehab center. Like, there's obviously people like me who want to get better, but it's also such an easy place to fall in the trap of not being motivated to get better and not wanting to leave, because everything's taken care of for you there. Oh. And some people will see the future and see how hard life is going to be when you leave the rehab center. And the goal is, once you get good enough, like with your wheelchair, whatever your scenario is, you leave and you open up another bed. But some people would see that like, I don't want to progress because life is going to suck when I leave this place. Like, there'll be doctors there to shower you, they cook for you, they do everything for you. It's just like constant service at the rehab center. So like, some people are like, why would I ever want to leave this place? Why would I want to get better?
When did I imagine that you didn't find that out right away? When did you start to?
No, I just started to notice like people would skip their physio sessions or skip their occupational therapist sessions, and I'm just like, why would you ever skip a physio session at rehab? Just never even registered in my brain. And I remember I was talking to my physio lady about it, and she's like, well, not everyone's motivated like you are in here. Like, some people have been here for quite some time, and they actually have to end up kicking some people out because they're not there for the right reasons. They're just there to get cared for. It's crazy.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it's really depressing, honestly.
So why do you think you were different than those people?
Oh, because, well, like I said, I was seeing the progress, man. Like, every day, a new muscle group would work, a new finger would move, so I was just seeing the progress. And I'm like, at that point, my left leg was working good. I was like, yo, like, and I think it was pretty soon into rehab, I had some flickers in my right leg. And once that second leg's, because it was super weird, the whole left side of my body came back faster than the right by like 3 weeks. And even to this day, my left side, way stronger than the right side.
Interesting.
It's super weird. Yeah, I guess the nerves, whatever it was, just didn't go to the right side for a bit. But once that right leg started working, and I was like, holy smokes, dude, like, this 5% pipe dream is actually coming true. Then it was like, let's go, game on at the physio,
So before your legs started working, were you doing the visualization?
Oh, yeah, big time, in the hospital. When I left the hospital, my left leg was working. My right leg wasn't working at all. And my left hand, I could move it, but my fingers didn't really work at all. I remember in the hospital, my dad would just like move my fingers for me for hours. He would just sit there and just kind of like, he thought he was like warming them up. He's like, I'm going to get these things going again. And then one day, I'll never forget this. He was like, come on, just move it. And like my left pointer finger, or it was my thumb just had like the littlest twitch. And I looked down, I'm like, did you see that? And he's like, yeah, you saw it too. I'm like, yeah. And then I like twitched it again, and we were like, let's go. Like, lost it, man. So stoked, because I was like, because not having your hands working, oh, it's the worst. Like, you use your hands for everything, like texting, eating, everything. So like to have one thumb even just move a little bit, it was like, oh, my hand might work again,
And when was that?
That was probably 2 weeks in. Like 2 weeks I was in the hospital still. Yeah, that was huge.
That is huge.
The hand, just the little thumb, was a huge milestone.
I can't believe you almost couldn't use your hands.
Yeah, both hands. And then the crazy part was I got to rehab, and after because I was at GF Strong for 2 months, two and a half months. And my right hand didn't start working till like the last month.
Really?
And everything else was working good. Like, I was standing, stuff like that, and my right hand still was not working. And the doctors were like, look, man, like, you've made an awesome recovery, like way more than any of us thought you were going to. Your right hand might just like not work. And I was like, God, man, I've come so far. Like, come on, it has to work.
How am I going to hold the handlebars?
I know, right? Like, oh, I'm so close. And then it slowly started working. And it was like, whew, that was the last thing to come back was my right hand. And it's still probably the slowest part of me now, like, is the right hand. Like, my grip strength and stuff is good now. It's come back. Like, I'm obviously not as strong as I used to, but it's just really slow. It's really weird. Like, yeah.
So, did you ever at any point come to terms with like not being able to use your hand again or use parts of your body?
For sure. I like it sounds silly, but I had like all these backup plans in the hospital. I was like, well, say the legs don't come back. Like, Paralympics seems sick. I could be like a sweet sit skier. I could do that. That would be awesome. And then the legs came back, and it's like, oh, okay, like, the legs are going to come back. I might not be able to bike again, but I could, like, do these other things. I always had these, like, backup plans, sort of, yeah. I don't know. It's just, like, so trying to keep positive.
You think that the backup plans were just, like, a light? You're just
kind of like a light, yeah. But I always had that end goal of, like, okay, I'm going to get back to, I want to bike again. That was, like, the main goal the whole time was, like, I want to ride bikes again. I don't know what it's going to look like. But, yeah, like, I want to ride again for sure. But then, like, if, like, I would have, like, this the fallback, like, oh, okay, like, if it doesn't work, at least you'll have this. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So you have this, like, real positive kind of self-talk loop.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta
I was just hammering the positivity. Like, did not let the negative intrusive thoughts in. And when they would, I would just like talk to one of my loved ones about it, and they would just gas me up. And it was like positive, positive, positive the whole time, or try to be.
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, what were those kind of negative thoughts? And
Just like, never going to walk again. What's a life like in a wheelchair? Because when I went to rehab, I was in the wheelchair. Like, I got a taste of the wheelchair life, and man, it's tough. Like,
life is tough. Yeah.
You don't realize, like, even because I could like leave the rehab during the day, and on the weekends we didn't have physio, so I'd go do like a gym session in the morning. But then I had an electric wheelchair with a pretty good charge on it, so I'd just go bomb around Vancouver in my wheelchair, like, because there's like nothing else to do. But you don't realize like how many sidewalks don't have a little down ramp, and then you're just screwed. Like, I can't drop the curb on my electric wheelchair. I'll have a huge wipeout and no one there to pick me up.
Especially when your hands don't work.
Yeah, exactly. So I have my little thing, and it's just like I got a taste for the wheelchair life, and like just thinking about like that, honestly, that was such a motivator. Like how hard being in a wheelchair was like, man, I have to walk again. Like, this would be so screwed to like constantly be in a wheelchair. It would be so hard. It would be so brutal. Like, life would be so challenging.
Seriously. I have a like huge respect.
Oh, the
for
utmost
anyone,
respect. And
especially people it wasn't their choice.
No.
You know?
It's insane. And like the electric wheelchair was one thing, but those like the normal wheelchair, like a push wheelchair, like guys get good at it, and it's crazy hard, man. Like, and I was weak in the arms pushing around in that push wheelchair. I was like, dude, fuck this, man. I gotta walk again. Like, this thing sucks. I just need to walk again. Like, I can't imagine this life.
So you're just refusing.
Yeah, I was just like, I got this.
That's amazing.
I remember in the rehab center, because it was like August, and it's like GF Strong's such an amazing place. They have so many programs and stuff for everyone. And the lady came up to me and like, so we're looking to sign up programs for the winter. Like, would you want to try sit skiing? I'm like, it'd be cool, but I'll probably be like back on the slopes this winter. And she just looked at me like, you're a psychopath. Like, you're in your electric wheelchair. Like, you're not going to be skiing again. And I remember like it kind of pissed me off how like doubtful she was. So I bought a season's pass to Sun Peaks for the winter.
No way.
Yeah. My parents were like, dude, you're like, why would you do that? I'm like, motivation, man. I'm going to be skiing this winter.
Okay, wait. This is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah. So
I think that combined with your, like, when you put something out there like that, when you put your money down, that is like a huge motivator.
I was like, I'm going to be skiing again. Skiing's easier than walking. You don't got to like step. You just slide down the hill. And they're like, you're crazy. You're in a wheelchair. Like, why would you waste your money on a season's pass? I'm like, it's going to be fine, guys. I'm going to walk out of here. No worries.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about the catheters?
Oh, bro. Man. So for the first bit, it wasn't bad because they have you on a permanent catheter. So the bag fills up, you drain the bag, you don't have to change out the catheter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone knows like a catheter is a peeing device for people that can't use their bladder function.
And if you don't know, I hope you never have to know.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's literally the worst thing in the whole world.
Is it actually? No, feeding tube gotta be worse.
No, the catheter. So bad. So uncomfortable. Well, and for some guys in a wheelchair, you don't feel anything below the waist. I could feel everything.
Oh, okay.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Actually,
I couldn't believe it, man.
So actually, I just get to GF Strong, right? I'd been there 4 days, like just getting into my routine. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be sick. Catheter blockage. No one at GF Strong can get it unblocked. So, like, bad news. They start freaking out. I'm filling up with piss, and it's not draining into my pee bag, and they couldn't change it.
Okay.
So they call the ambulance. And I'm starting to get, like, really uncomfortable because I'm literally just filling up with pee, and I can't pee. And the ambulance wouldn't come. I've never seen my dad more pissed off in his entire life because the hospital is 5 minutes away, like 5-minute drive.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let him drive me just because of the like health precautions. Because
maybe
like,
you could blow up.
Kind of a medical emergency, a little bit. Like I'm filling up with piss here.
Yeah.
And I remember like I got the sweats. It was like probably the most pain I'd been in throughout that whole process because like it was just so uncomfortable. I'm like sweating, getting the shakes, like, and it just like it feels like my bladder's gonna explode. So they finally get an ambulance there, take me back to VGH, and they finally got it unclogged, and there was something like 1.5 liters of piss in me. And I looked at the pee that came out of me, dude, and it was like orange, and there was like solid crystals like coming out. It was so gnar. But then the worst part was I had like the worst UTI of all time, and I had to stay at the hospital again for 5 more days. Wow. Because they had to monitor my UTI. So I just gotten to GF Strong. I was all fired up like, this is it. This is the progress I needed. And then that was a super low point I'd forgotten about because I have this catheter blockage, crazy UTI, back at the hospital, and they had me on a different floor. Like the spinal patients are on, say, like the 8th floor. I was on the 5th floor because there was no beds upstairs for me anymore. So I was just in like general care, and it was way worse, bro. Like just because the nurses were way more short-staffed. I didn't get nearly as good of care, and it was brutal. Like I was in this room where the AC didn't work, and we had like my dad brought me a fan, but my parents couldn't be there all the time, and I shared the room with this guy, and he could walk, and he'd just get out of the bed and turn the fan to face him. And I'd be like, bro, like, that's my fan. You can't be doing that. And he'd just be like, brr, brr, and like get back in his bed. And I would just be like laid up in bed sweating. And there was like no nurses to take me outside. And I was just stuck there for 5 days, like so bummed out. Like I had made it to the rehab center, and now I'm back here at the hospital because of something I can't even control, a catheter blockage.
That's rough, man.
It sucked so bad.
I'm not impressed with the BC healthcare.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough job. I wouldn't want to be a nurse.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's the nurse's fault or whatever, but I think
the frustrating
it's more of a
part was the
system.
ambulance, man. Like, how could you, like, maybe I wouldn't have been stuck there if the ambulance came right away. Took them 4 hours to drive 5 minutes to get me to the hospital because there's just not enough ambulance drivers.
Yeah, I think it's more of a system thing.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I'm not hating on anyone in the BC healthcare industry, just to make that clear. But, you know, being from Ontario and Toronto, like healthcare is awesome.
Yeah.
And then when I broke my shoulder blade and collarbone, you know, I had to come back to the hospital 2 weeks later because they didn't know that I broke my collarbone. I was like, hey, guys, my shoulder feels fine. What, can you x-ray over here?
It's just crazy to me because, like, there's bad truckers out there, you know? There's a lot of truckers. Some of them are bad at their job. There's a lot of doctors out there, and some of them are bad at their job, but it's like, man, that's such a gnarly one for you to be bad at your job for. Like, it's insane. Totally. Like, having bad, like, that's a general, after this whole process, huge fear of mine, getting, like, mismanaged, like, health care. Like, say you break something, you go to the hospital, and they misdiagnose you. Dude, that shit's terrifying.
It is, isn't it? I think it happens to a lot of people.
All the time.
Not to get too off topic. I want to kind of wind things back in.
Yeah, for sure.
You were, you know, so you had this like low moment.
That was the low. I forgot about that. That was probably the lowest point because I had just started getting that progress, and then back to the hospital.
Was it your family that kind of like helped you get through that, and your girlfriend, or was
for
there
sure
other self-talk?
The family, girlfriend, like, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And then I remember because I was super bored because there was no nurses. I didn't get taken out much. That was when I did a deep dive on podcasts. I listened to so many podcasts of other dudes who had like really broke themselves off and were made recoveries, and just like taking little bits of pieces from all that, like from what they did and stuff.
Do you have any recommendations for a guest?
Podcasts?
Yeah.
I listen to yours a bunch because that's kind of what it's about. There was a ski podcast. This guy, I could tell you could put it in the show notes. He had a lot of like cool guests on who would talk about like some crazy injuries and stuff they had, and then just like health ones as well. Like Paul Check, listen to him a bunch.
Paul Check's awesome.
Yeah, super sick.
You know,
Huberman Lab. I was just listening to podcasts about health and people getting better, and it was like, okay, yeah, I still got this, you know. try not to let the negative thoughts in, but that point was tough for sure.
I was watching a Paul Chek video one time
Really?
on YouTube, and he starts talking about men and pain in their left knee and their upper kneecap. And I was like, literally thought that I tore my kneecap. I thought I like my meniscus. I don't even know where my meniscus is, but I thought some tendon was gone because all the biking over the years, I was in my late 20s. I was like, this is
knee
for
shot.
sure my knees. All my friends did my knees. Like, for sure my knees shot. And then I'm watching this video, and, Paul Chek's like, men that consume too much fat will get knee pain. Like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, what? No way.
Yeah.
So I was vegetarian. So I was like consuming a lot of nuts and avocados and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it was causing my pain.
No way.
I like shut it down and
it
consumed
helped.
like half, and my knee pain went away and never came back.
That dude is health wizard.
That is insane.
Yeah, he's crazy, bro.
That is insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was mental or what, but anyways, not to get too off topic. Paul Chek is great.
Yeah.
We'll put him in the show notes. Any movies? Did you watch any inspiring films or?
Yeah. So the Paul Bass one for sure. Another crazy good movie, inspiring. The Crash Reel, Kevin Pierce's documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I've never seen that. No.
Oh man, you should watch it.
It'll
make you wear a helmet, like if you even touch anything. And it honestly made me so thankful because Kevin Pierce was going into the 2010 Olympic Games. He was the guy to beat Shaun White.
Okay.
And he was like Shaun White had a private Red Bull half pipe, didn't let his friends ride. Kevin Pierce got his sponsor money to build a half pipe to an airbag to push the sport, invite all his homies to come ride.
I think I did see this.
Yeah. And he had a super bad brain injury, and it follows his whole journey through the hospital and like getting back. And it just made me so thankful. It's kind of crazy to think I was thankful in that scenario, but so thankful that I had a spinal cord injury and not a traumatic brain injury, because at least even if I'm in a wheelchair, I'm still Jake, I'm still me, same guy. If you have a traumatic brain injury, like, you are a different human after, and it's so much gnarlier on your family and everyone. It's just, it was crazy to like feel like thankful for my circumstance, but it honestly did, because I'm like, well, even if I don't walk again, at least I'm like, it wasn't a brain injury. At least I'm still me. I'm still like the same guy, like mentally. And, it's crazy.
Oh, I totally know. Like,
yeah.
For me,
sure.
it was, at least I'm not paralyzed.
No.
And
yeah.
And when I like thought about it, I was like, I'd rather be paralyzed than die. Like a lot of people say that, I'd rather, if I was paralyzed, they'd kill me.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, because I think that life is really like,
oh yeah, dude.
I'd way rather live.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Wow. So we got a little off topic there, but
a little sidetrack.
We'll wind things back in.
Back into the rehab.
So I want to know, like, what were some of the hardest things about your rehabilitation? And you don't have to tell me inside the Strong facility. It can be whatever.
So I'll finish off the catheter topic, because that was a total sidetrack mission. But so once I got to a certain point at rehab, they said, you're no longer going to be on the permanent catheter bag. You're going to have to self-catheter 8 times a day to pee. So I'm not bagged up anymore. I would, every 3 hours.
8 times?
Every 3 hours. I would have to shove a tube up there.
The tube is huge.
It's huge.
It's huge.
And shove it up there and press it against my bladder and drain it. And I looked at the nurse. I'm like, no. And she's like, you have to. I'm like, why can't I have the piss bag? You're like, you're not going to get better with the piss bag. I'm like, all right. So I remember the first one. I'm like, can you please just help? Like, I can't. And she did it for me. And I was like, never again am I doing that. So I remember I drank a bunch of water. And I just sat on the toilet and put headphones in of like river noises and waterfalls and sat there till I peed. And I was on the toilet for like 4 or 5 hours. I'm like, I am not leaving this throne until I make some pee come out of my body, because there's no way I'm going to self-catheter
That's amazing.
So it happened. I had a couple dribbles. I was like, let's go. That's so sick. But then the worst part was, so after they're like, obviously everyone's happy for me. They're like, oh my God, that's so amazing, Jake. But we're going to have to scan you. So they would like, almost like a pregnant lady, scan my bladder. And if I didn't drain my bladder to 150 milliliters, they would want me to catheter out the rest because it's bad to have bladder in there. But I would escape them, bro. I had like sneaky way, like I would just pee and not tell anyone, and then the nurses would be like, Jake, have you peed recently? I'm like, yeah, but I gotta go to physio. Like, no time for a scan right now, because I was like, no, I'm not doing that, dude. I know it's working good enough. Like, I'm not shoving that thing up there. But the worst part was nighttime, because I had no escape. They would come in. Like, they'd wake me up at, like, midnight, and I had a little, like, piss jug, and I'd pee into my jug, and then they'd scan me, and I remember a couple of times they'd scan me, it'd be, like, 200. And I'm like, come on, bro. It's 50 milliliters. Like, do not do that to me. And the nurses were sick. They were like, okay, yeah, that's close enough. You're fine. So I never had to self-catheter, which was huge.
They did the same thing to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell no.
No way,
I just sat
bro.
there, same thing.
Yeah,
I sat there, my
yeah.
leg was throbbing, everything was throbbing, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not leaving
Yeah.
until I get some drops. That's
So
insane.
so sorry to get back to it. You said the hardest part about the whole rehab process.
Yeah.
So in the very beginning, like I would try and progress too fast, where my body couldn't really keep up at rehab. Like I would be in like my physio sessions, and I would like my like resting heart rate was like extremely low for some reason. I would like kind of like push it to the point of like pretty much like I would like see stars and like almost pass out, just because whatever was going on in my body, it was like I was pushing it a little hard. So it was like laying off the throttle a bit helped, and that was hard for me because I was like seeing progress and I didn't want to stop, but like the body was like, no dude, like you got to pump the brakes a little bit here. That was super challenging to like kind of like wind it back and be like, okay, you can't go too fast at this, it's not going to help, like you got to do the process. That was super challenging. The first couple weeks at GF was super hard because once I got the feed tube taken out, I had to be on a pureed diet. I don't know if you've ever been on a pureed diet. But
No, I don't even know what that is. What? Maybe tell us first.
So because my they're still worried about my esophagus not being strong enough, they put me on a pureed diet, which is basically they throw everything in the blender. So I would fill out my menu card for the day. It's like, oh, pureed chicken and potatoes. So they would just literally blend chicken to like a mashed potato form. And every meal was like the consistency of mashed potatoes. And I'm a big food guy, right? So I'm like, and thick water. I couldn't drink regular water. I had to have thickened water, which was so weird. It was like kind of like a weird plasma-y kind of water.
Okay.
So I think I was on that program for 2 or 3 weeks. That was tough. Like I would just load it up with sriracha. Just sriracha everything.
And the mindset throughout the whole time is like, I'm only going to be here for a bit. I'm getting better.
I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get back on the regular food program. And then because that was also the biggest thing, because I'm listening to all these podcasts and they're like, oh, like what you put in is how you're going to heal yourself. And I'm like, just eating this garbage blended food. I'm like, dude, this is not helping me. You know, like I need to get on a good diet program to really ramp this whole recovery up, you know? And yeah, so that was tough. Then I got on the solid food. Then everything. Once I remember actually, once I got on the solid food, like I really started to notice more progress, because I could like, the food at GF was pretty good. Like, and I had way more menu options when I could actually like eat, and my parents could bring me in food as well. And once I actually started giving my body the nutrients I feel like it needed, and like the water and stuff, and I was like actually be able to eat regular food, I really saw some progress. Like that's when, like I think it was honestly a couple days after I got switched to the regular food is when I stood for the first time.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like literally like that was the thing. I swear.
Food is medicine, maybe.
Food is medicine, man. 100%. I remember I took that I stood up for the first time. My stepmom was there to see it. It was like so emotional, man. Like, because that was, once I stood, I'm like, okay, I'm walking again. Like I'm the 5%, which was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Were you with the doctors when you tried that, or was that just...
Yeah, so that was in physio, and it was crazy because like days leading up, they would like assist stand you. Like there was like a machine that would like kind of like lift you and stuff. But the whole time in rehab, the like physio ladies and occupational therapists, like, so an occupational therapist, they basically get you set up for the world, like wheelchair life, like how to get in and out of bed from a wheelchair if your legs don't work, how to get on the toilet and stuff like that. But I was always like, I was always adamant that I didn't get any help, and I would always do it myself because I figured it's just like progress, you know, it's like working my muscles and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, just see, like all that progress, and then sorry,
that's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, man.
That's a lot of work, dude.
Yeah, it was a lot of things happening all at once, but then like the constant progress, like I said, definitely helped.
One thing that really struck me when we were talking one time was you were talking about how hard it was to rely on other people.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be really cool. We kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it would be cool to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, it was tough, man. And then like just like relying on people for basic needs you never would really think of, like feeding. Like when my hands didn't work, my mom would have to feed me my meals. And it's just like, oh, I just didn't want to, it just felt burdening, you know, like I'm burdening society because I can't do these basic, simple tasks for myself.
It's crazy because like I kind of went through a similar thing. And for me, it was like I realized that, like, you know, sometimes you just don't want like your roommate to put away your dishes.
No.
Or your significant other or whatever. But it's kind of like that's the peak of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then down at the root is like when you can't like wipe your fucking ass.
Oh yeah,
like,
totally, dude.
Like,
yeah, you can't go to the bathroom by yourself.
Yeah, you can't. And it's been 3-4 months, and you can't do the dishes.
Yeah,
you know,
it's insane,
or whatever it is, and you can really see it. Kind of like, you know, for me, like,
yeah,
it was hard. My sister looked after me. She has cystic fibrosis, so she was looking after me.
Yeah,
and you know, seeing a little bit of toll that I was having on my family at first, it was okay because it was obviously a lot of love. Mm-hmm. But about like, you know, 2-3 months in, like you could really see it.
Oh yeah, the toll it was taking on them.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't know, you know, that's
hard.
what it was like for me.
It is hard. Yeah.
I'm wondering like, how was that? Was that an experience for you?
Yeah, for sure. Because it was summertime. My mom usually spends her whole summer at the lake or trailer, and she was driving an hour and a half rush hour traffic to come visit me after work or before work, like just to see me every day. Same with my dad, you know, he'd get off work, come visit, stepmom, friends. It was just like, I'm like, man, like it just felt so bad because I was like almost making their summer not fun, which is so silly because obviously they're going to be there for me. But it was like, I'm like, oh, you guys should like go do your things, you know, like you don't have to visit me every day. It's okay. But they would because they love me, you know, and just, yeah. That was just the feeling of that, like hindering their lives because of what I did to myself was tough for sure.
How did you come to terms with that?
Did
you?
It was tough because it was such a brief moment. And then like when I gained like, when I was like cruising around a bit better, they didn't necessarily have to come visit me every day. So I felt that guilt heavy for the like first month or 2 months that I was in there. But then I didn't really rely on them as much after. So I feel like if I would have been in your scenario, say, where
Dude,
the 3 to 4 months of them constantly having to help you. And the other thing was I was at rehab. Like I wasn't at home. You know, I had nurses helping me. You feel a little
Strong
less,
is taking a lot of that off.
You feel a lot less of a burden because they're there to wipe your ass. You know, it's not my mom. Like it's the nurses who are getting paid to be there, which helped a lot. And then by the time I got home, like it was like I was pretty self-dependent. So it was burdening, but it wasn't as bad for someone who's recovering at home. Like that would have been way harder for sure.
But even catching a glimpse of it.
Oh yeah.
I think it changes you forever.
Yeah. One of the other really hard parts about being at rehab was Like, it was so sick how fast I was progressing. And you become buddies with the rehab homies, you know? Like, we're all in there. It sucks. We're all getting a taste of the wheelchair life for the first time. And they're obviously stoked for me. Like, I was walking around by the time I left there, and they saw me pull up. My legs weren't working. But it was so, like, hard. I remember one kid, he was a couple of years younger than me. Same thing, mountain biking accident in Williams Lake, trying to impress some girl. Broke his back. The doctors in rehab told him, definite, you are never going to feel anything below your waist again, and you're never going to walk again. And I'm out there walking around the hallways. Like, the guilt I felt for, like, I know he's happy for me, but it's got across his mind, like, why couldn't have that been my scenario? You know what I mean? And just the guilt I felt walking around all these people who I was in the same boat as them 4 weeks ago was so hard, man. Like, because those are your, like, rehab boys, you know, you're going through it together. And I'm just progressing so much faster than all of them. I don't know why. I'm super thankful and fortunate, and I know they're happy for me, but it was just, that was a weird mind construct I was going through. Like, I'm happy for myself, but I also, like, feel so bad because I'm kind of flexing on all these people that aren't ever going to have the same scenario I am again.
Life's so unfair and fucked
I know.
up.
It's insane. Yeah.
You know, that's, man, I don't even know what to say, but
Yeah, it was just tough. There's no easy way around it. It was just a weird, tough scenario to be in, for sure.
it's hard. Like sometimes when you don't have a choice,
No.
and that's your new
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I remember I would just, like, do my best to keep him stoked, especially that young guy. Like, I forget his name. There's the one guy who rips Whistler Bike Park on the sit bike. Like, rips super hard. He has a couple YouTube videos out. I would just show him these videos on our lunches all the time. I'm like, bro, this is going to be you, man. Like, it's fine. You're still going to be able to rip mountain bikes. Like, these things look so sick. Like, this is going to be you when you get out of here. And he'd be like, yeah, man, like, I can't wait to get one of those bikes. It's going to be sick. So I'd, like, just do my best to kind of, like, gas him up.
That's huge, man. I remember reading a Goggins book, and they talk a lot about, like, if you want to, like, alleviate your own pain and suffering, the best way to do is by helping and focusing on other people.
Yeah, for sure.
And because it kind of takes the attention off yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
That's crazy, dude. Man, that's so heavy.
Yeah.
That's so
heavy,
man. Dude.
Yeah.
That's so heavy. And watching Paul Bass's film, does it look like did your facility kind of look like Bass's?
Yeah, a little bit. There were some similarities.
Because I got that in my head.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
As you're telling me this,
you have
like,
the gym,
I'm
you have
literally
the pool,
yeah.
you have your bedroom. I shared a room with this guy named Howard. He used to, like, actually work at Rocky Mountain Bikes way back in the day. He was sick. You know, so you have your roommates, and it is like that, though. It's like the documentary, for sure. Yeah.
So when did you kind of start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and what were you looking like?
So the tail end. So it was like
of rehab.
Yeah. So it was like a 3-month total process of, like, hospital and rehab, and then I went home. And the last couple weeks of rehab, I was able to walk. Like, I was walking around the rehab center with a cane. Like, I had, like, a walker, you know.
Had you been on a stationary bike yet?
Dude, so actually in the hospital, like, a week after my surgery, they had me on this bike that would just pedal for me. And I would, because my left leg still worked, I could, like, give her a little bit. And that was, like, my main physio in the hospital, was just this bike that would pedal for me. And I would just sit there. Oh, it would light me up, man. I looked forward to sitting on that bike every day because it was like, oh, this is so sick. Like, it just got my legs moving.
Wow, right awesome. Away they had you on that.
Yeah, because I guess it just gets the legs moving, and it was just really good.
So when did you weren't pedaling it?
No, my left, like, leg was, it was still, I wasn't able to pedal it alone, but they could, like, lower the assist, kind of, and I could, like, really give her for a minute and then would get tired, sort of thing.
Well, how far, like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, when did you start kind of thinking about biking again?
Oh, dude, like, as soon as I walked again, I was like, okay, yeah, like, we're going to bike again. This is so sick.
No way.
That was always the goal, right? Was biking again. And I think once I started walking again was when I set the goal of riding Backwoods again. That was the end goal. Like I'm going to ride bikes again and I'm going to ride the Backwoods jumps again. So for people who don't know,
just the biggest
dirt, like the biggest set of dirt to dirt jumps, like the before
for hardtails.
Yeah, for hardtails, for sure. Like the biggest set of jumps for hardtails. I don't know. They're one of the biggest sets of jumps for hardtails probably in the world. Like just dirt to dirt.
Yeah,
hardtail
probably top
jumps.
5.
Yeah, like they're up there for sure.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, best days of my life, for sure, every session I've had in the Backwoods, like top 3. Like I've only had 3 weekend sessions on them, and they are like just the best day of my life for sure. Every time I've rode those jumps, they're just the most fun. So I had that. As soon as I walked again, I'm like, set that goal. Backwoods. Let's go. I'm going to ride bikes again. I'm going to get strong enough to hit those jumps again because it was just the best day I've ever had in my entire life, and I wanted to have another one of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So how far away were you, though?
From riding Backwoods?
Yeah.
Oh, so far.
Yeah.
I couldn't even really walk. I had a walker. I could, like, walk around, but I was, like, my muscles were all, like, kind of working. I had to have this crazy, like, so my right flexor muscle in my foot, the muscle that brings your foot up, that was the one that wasn't working. So I had this, like, crazy device that, like, strapped around my ankle, and then I had these, like, really strong elastic bands that hooked onto my shoes. So then it would just keep my foot up so then I could walk around on it because I couldn't move my right foot up and down. So then I could get around the rehab center better, get into the gym. And at that point, my upper body was working pretty good, so I could like use the pulley, like a pulley machine at a gym basically, but with like no weight at all, and just like rip pulleys and stuff all the time. So yeah,
it's crazy because I'm listening to you, but I'm thinking like how crazy Big Air is. So like you experience Big Air.
Yeah.
And then there you are, like, paralyzed.
Yeah, and that's the goal.
But, like, literally, like, you refuse so you can experience Big Air again.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just insane to me.
Yeah,
That's just
the best thing ever.
That is how powerful it is, man.
It is, man, yeah.
And I felt really similar with my loop crash.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
the same thing. I
Oh,
was
I
like, man, like, if I'm going to live here, like, I'm going to do that again.
Yeah, 100%.
Not the loop, but like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
do.
Like if
some
I'm
Big
gonna
Air.
get back, if I'm able to pedal a bike again, I'm for sure gonna. Because like at that point, all the muscles like were kind of working. The foot one like hardly worked, but it was there. Like so at that point in my rehab, every muscle group was firing again. When I left rehab, like GF Strong, they got every single muscle group working.
Congratulations.
So, man,
unbelievable.
Like, yeah, once every muscle group was working, I knew it was possible. They said it might not be possible to strengthen all of them, but I'm like, I got them from 0 to working. If I can get them from 0 to working, I can get them strong again. Like, they've started working. It's going to take some time, but I know that I eventually can get strong enough again to like ride.
So talking about time, how long was it from you broke your back to when you left?
So I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then total time I left GF Strong 3 months after I broke my neck.
Holy shit, that's a
fast.
lot of progress for 3 months.
It was insane, bro, and that's why I'm saying it was so nuts. And like I asked my occupational therapist, I'm like, because I was curious. I'm like, so like, you know, how many people walk out of here? She's like, I've been here for 4 years, and you're the second person that I've worked with that I came in a wheelchair and left walking.
Holy crap.
Just to put it in perspective, yeah.
Dude, you're a unicorn.
It's crazy, man.
Okay.
And, yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about the place before we? Because
it was cool because I like going to the rehab center. I had that sense of freedom again because all I had to do was make it to my physio and occupational appointments.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was a normal functioning human again, you know? So girlfriend come down for the weekend. We'd take the electric wheelchair and go rip the seawall, you know? I was kind of like a normal dude again a little bit, which was sick. But like there were some funny moments like piss bag filled up on the seawall. I'm like, hey, babe, you're going to have to flip the lid on that one. We like pulled off to the side of the seawall and drained a liter of pee into a bush because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. You know, I can't go into the bathroom. There's like a little blocker thing there, you know, and I got to drain the pee. Or like, I remember first night going out for beers, you know? I asked the doctors, I'm like, hey, like, is drinking cool? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I haven't done this in a while. So we like went to this girl's apartment in Vancouver. My friend picked me up, put the wheelchair in his car. They gave him the lowdown. And then, you know, it was a really nice night. But then at that point, I wasn't on the catheter or anything. I was peeing. But like when I had to pee, I had to pee. I had no time. I remember he's driving me back Dude, he's driving me back to rehab. And I'm like, uh-oh, like I'm going to pee. And he's like, so he pulls up to rehab and he gets my wheelchair set up for me. He gets me in the chair. And I didn't want him to see this. So he's like, are you all good, man? You want me to like wheel you up to the door? No, I got, get out of here. And there's like a security guard working the front door. And they're like, and I couldn't get my wheelchair up the curb. And meanwhile, I have to pee so bad. And I'm just like trying. And she can see I'm struggling. She's like, do you need a hand? I'm like, no, I got it. Just being stubborn. And then I'm like, whatever, screw it. And just like fully pee. And this lady, I'm locked eyes with the security guard. And I just have the biggest pee. And it's just like puddling under my wheelchair. The whole time, like, this is something out of a movie, bro. Like, I'm just like sitting there fully peeing my pants, massive puddle of pee under me. And then I get my wheelchair going, wheel past her. She says nothing. Just looks at me and I just look at her.
Really?
Doesn't say a single word.
Thing.
I like get into my bed. I get myself to bed and I just start laughing to myself. I'm like, dude, that imagine that security guard lady.
You stole her soul.
Yeah, it was just like crazy being in rehab and like being a normal person in society, but being in a wheelchair and having all these like awkward, but I just had like a funny outlook on him. Like that was hilarious, you know, like that's crazy. But yeah, it was just, yeah.
Poor lady, dude.
It's so funny. Yeah.
So funny, but also so embarrassing.
So embarrassing and heavy. But like I just had to like, whatever, you know. The only thing you can do about it now is laugh.
That's great. But in the time you must have been like, whoa, man.
I honestly thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I like got to bed. I'm like, imagine what that security guard lady is thinking right now.
It's a great perspective.
Just watched a grown man fully pee himself. But yeah. So yeah, there's some funny times at GF for sure. But a lot to that facility, man. Crazy. Everyone in there, all the doctors, all the physios, like the best. Like that place really did it for me.
Sounds like they're changing a lot of lives.
Oh, 100%. Even just them, like, say I wasn't going to walk again. Like, they get you so dialed for life as a wheelchair person. Like, they get you set up with all the things you need at your house, you know? They help you get your car set up. They help you get your license back. And they help your car get set up with hand controls and stuff like that. They literally make it possible for you to, like, live a semi-normal life, as normal as it can be when you get out of there. So I owe a lot to that place for sure.
Wow. So, I've been dying to ask. So, how was your integration back into normal life after coming out of that place? I mean, congratulations on how you came out.
Thanks. Yeah, I was actually supposed to be there for another month and a half, but I just progressed, and I was by the end. I remember my parents wanted me to stay longer at GF Strong, but I was kind of like over it at that point. I'd been in the healthcare system for 3 months now. And I was just kind of ready to get back to, like, I was walking. Everything was working relatively normal. So I was like, I'm ready to get back into society. Like, I can do these workouts at home. Like, I've been in here in the system for 3 months. Like, I'm ready to go home.
It's crazy how you jumped the gun getting in the facility.
Yeah.
And then now you're jumping the gun to get
Yeah,
out.
I was supposed to be there for another month and a half, 2 months, but they let me go sooner, which was sick.
How did they go about that? Was there like a test you had to pass?
I had to pass a driving test to get my license back, which was honestly hard. Like, it was like they would it was a reaction time based test, and it was like from the 60s, like this old computer program, and you'd be like driving the car, and it was my right foot with the flexor muscle that wasn't dialed. And that was the one muscle that really sucked. So I was like driving the car, and then something would like jump on the screen, and you had to like hit the brake, go from gas pedal to brake in a certain amount of time. And dude, I was like, it was hard. It was close. I barely passed the test. Like, and luckily my physio lady got me in there like a week before and I could practice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I had some practice in and then I had to do the test and they got me. But, like the last couple weeks I was going home on the weekends. You know, I did a couple weekend trips. they had to get me to the point where I remember I had to take blood thinner meds for whatever reason, and it was in a needle. And once...
Maybe because you weren't moving so much.
Yeah, I think so. Once I could give myself the blood thinner shot in my leg, which was kind of gnarly. Like, I had to jab myself with like an inch needle and twice a day to blood thinner myself. Once I could do that, and I was going home on the weekends, then I just like looked at I like had a conversation with my doctor. I was like, hey, I'm ready to get out of here. And I also felt a little guilty being there still and like holding a bed. I'm like, man, like I remember being that guy at the hospital, like just praying a bed would open up. Like, I don't need to be here anymore. Like, please give my bed to someone that needs it. Like, let me get on with life, you know?
It's pretty selfless, bro.
Well, yeah, that, and I just wanted to get out of there, you know? I was ready to, like, get on with my life for sure.
Must have felt insane going home on the weekends.
Oh, dude, it was so... I remember one of the first ones, we didn't tell them, but I came up to Kamloops to my buddy's cabin for the weekend. No I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to just stay around Langley or whatever, or stay close to Vancouver. But I was like, I'm fine. Let's go up there. So we, like, bombed up for the weekend. It was so fun. And then I got back. And once you get that taste of freedom, normal life on the weekends, going back to rehab for Monday to Friday, I was like, oh, dude, like, I don't need to be here anymore. Like, get me out of here. I can just live normal life again. It's fine.
So... was it actually fine though? Like
no,
going into normal life?
No, not at all. Well, it wasn't. I expected it to be a lot more normal than it was. I didn't really realize how weak of a human being I was. Like, first week at home, I get home. I remember one time I like biffed it downstairs and I like couldn't stand up. And I was just in an awkward spot where I like toppled over in my like basement at my house. I was just stuck there for like an hour. And then and like I ended up like crawling kind of out of it. And then my mom came home. She's like, oh my God, like how long have you been stuck here like this? I'm like, oh no, Mom, it's fine. I've only been down here for like 40 minutes. She's like, what? Like, you shouldn't have left GF Strongly. You're not ready. I'm like, I'm fine. But like I was very weak. Like I needed something to like get back standing. I needed a walker to get around. So the first couple weeks back home were definitely tough, but I was just like so motivated, you know, like just to like I would like go on walks every day, like just getting the strength back to get semi back to normal life. But I couldn't even cook for myself. Like my hands didn't work good enough to like grip the knife to like cut vegetables, you know? So it was like for the first week or two, I got that little taste of being dependent like we were talking about, but progress still was like so fast that like after a couple of weeks, like, okay, I was able to cook for myself. I could like cut things or I could make it around the house fine by myself, the railings and stuff. But yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was wild, man. And the thing you don't realize when you look at a person who's in a wheelchair, who's had a spinal cord injury, there's so much more to it than that. Like bladder and bowel function, man. Like I would appear to be a normal human, but the amount of times I crap my pants as a grown man just on the street that first year out of rehab, like I probably soiled my pants in public like 12 times that first year. And there's nothing more embarrassing than just fully crapping your pants with your loved ones or your girlfriend. You're on a date, you just crap your pants. The worst.
You just smell terrible.
Oh yeah, like so brutal. Just because those things were still coming back and still like trying to get better or whatever. I still struggle with it today. Like my bowel stuff is like way better, you know? But like there'll be the odd accident still. And it's just when those moments happen, it's so tough because it's like, oh, like it's just a reminder of like you're not what you used to be. But then it's like you just got to take a look at it like, yeah, you're not what you used to be, but you're not in a wheelchair. You're walking and biking again. Like, big deal. You crap your pants every couple months as an adult. It's fine. You could be stuck in a wheelchair.
At least you can ride bikes.
At least you can ride bikes again, you know? Yeah.
Dude, you're so cool, man. I actually crapped my pants last year. I was working so hard. Here.
Really?
From exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
Full-on exhaustion.
Full-on exhaustion
like,
crap.
Just like my body almost like refused to stop working.
Yeah. It was, you know what?
I would think I was up for like.
Were you in the machine?
No, the machine was here, and I was up for like. Man,
that was when you were doing those crazy hours.
2.5 days or something.
Wow.
And I was just
body was like
full on, just crap my pants.
Reality check.
But I went back inside, cleaned up, and went back.
Oh yeah. Oh dude.
But dude,
you know what? And you know what was crazy? Like, so I'm out of rehab now, and I'm like trying to eat healthy and stuff, and like the crapping your pants thing. It is before I broke my neck was when I really started to like learn about the powers of eating healthy and having a good diet and like being hydrated. After I left rehab, my body was in such a mode of recovery that all of my thoughts about diet were just solidified. Like say I got out of I'm out of rehab and I just ate some fast food. Next day I would be so inflamed and just feel horrible. Or say Friday night, you know, I'm like, it's been a couple months. I have a couple beers with some buddies. I wake up Saturday, even now, if I have a big night on the beers, like I wake up the next day and I feel like an 80-year-old man, like stiff as a 2x4, like just so inflamed. It's like all the ideas of eating healthy and like having a healthy lifestyle that I was thinking were working before, but I didn't really notice because I was still like a healthy, normal guy, now are just so solidified because if I don't eat healthy and I'm not like taking care of myself, that's when I'll like crap my pants or I won't feel like I'll feel horrible the next day. I'll be walking around all stiff-legged and people are like, what's wrong with that guy? You know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. Like, so now it's just, yeah, it's nuts how food and health literally is like keeping me going.
you notice a big improvement.
Oh, dude. Like if I do a good like week or two like of just like eating really healthy every day, I feel so good. And then even like I'll have like even a couple spoonfuls of ice cream before bed because I'm not, you know, I still like good food and like having some beers or whatever, but I just notice it. Yeah, cheers. I just notice it, you know, next day, and that's it's crazy.
Yeah, I notice it too, and it gets worse the older you get.
Yeah,
and you know, it's funny just to talk on that, like, you know, to go for a ride, for instance, I find myself just doing more and more and more and more and more and more and more to stay at that level.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an easy trade because I love biking.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
But to hear you about, you know, crapping your pants and stuff, it's crazy the level of embarrassment because not very many people even know.
Oh, dude, well, it's so hard because I would walk around town, especially like soon after my injury, and I'd walk funny, but I look like a relatively normal guy.
Yeah.
No one knows. But like say for example, I'd go to the gym like every day after like I slowly ended up moving up to Kamloops, and that's where because my girlfriend was from Kamloops, so I just kind of like slowly weaseled my way into her house.
Amazing how that relationship progressed, by the way.
Oh, dude, like from me not being able to move anything to she coming to visit me every second weekend, driving from Kamloops to visit me. And then me moving in there and doing my whole rehab, and just slowly, every time I'd come to Kamloops, I would just bring some more things. And then eventually, like, all my stuff was there. I'm like, hey, pretty much living here. Can I just move in? She's like, yeah, sure. So I was doing a lot of my rehab in Kamloops. Yeah, shout out to Katie. She's insane. But to get back to what I was saying, like, I'd go to the gym. A lot of gym bros are there. And I'm literally bench pressing 2 pounds because that's all I can do. You want to know the funny looks you get when their gym bros are putting up like 2 plates aside, and I'm in there bench pressing with 2-pound dumbbells?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's insane, man. They're like, what's wrong with him? Like, what's his deal?
The sweat just pouring down.
Oh, the heart. Just to get 4 pounds up. It was just, yeah. So it was a lot of like, kind of like trying not to be embarrassed. Like trying not to like, it was just a lot of me trying to like reiterate the fact to myself, like, no, dude, like you could be in a wheelchair. Like, don't be embarrassed. Like, this is what it's going to take. Like, they don't know what you've been through. It's fine. They're looking at you funny, whatever, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say, what's your self-talk and what would you say to someone who's worried about being embarrassed about doing something?
Dude, doesn't matter what they think, man. It's all about what you want. Like, if you want to get better and you know that's what it's going to take is putting up those 2 pounds, like, Dude, it's some random guy's opinion of you. It really doesn't matter. He's going to look at you and think it's weird and then think about something else 2 seconds later.
You know what? You're so right, but a lot of people...
I know it's a hard thing to realize.
Shut it down.
I know. It's so hard.
Or even asking a girl out or something like that. You
Yeah.
know? You just can't even handle...
the embarrassment of maybe them saying no or what they would think. Yeah, it's just... You just really have to think about it like, man, like nobody really cares that much, you know? They might look at you funny or give you a funny look, but their chances are they're probably not doing it to be mean. It is weird that you're a grown man lifting so light at the gym, you know, but they're probably just wondering what happened. Like they're not doing it to be mean. I know it's easy to think they are, but it's just, yeah.
There's two things kind of come to mind. It's first is the like the idea of what it means to be a man.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That one was so tough. But yeah, okay.
Okay, well let's just
all right, you want to dive into that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to talk about being a man, like when you're so weak because all your muscles deteriorate to zero and you're trying to like regrow them all, basically, is what I was trying to do at that point. Like they were all working, but they all were terribly weak. Like you don't feel like you're quote unquote big strong man who's supposed to like take care of his girlfriend, you know? Like you'd like, yeah.
You don't realize how much that's beaten into you.
It is.
But
like it's insane. Like even still to this day, I struggle with that one. Like I still can't do a pull up, and I'm like, what kind of man am I? I can't do a pull up. It's so dumb. It's so silly to even, but that like male complex is just so ingrained into me, you know?
You know, what's helped me a lot with that is it's less about what I do and it's more about how hard I try.
Yeah.
So
that's a good
if
motto.
I'm like, you know, whatever my 100% is that day.
Yeah.
And I put out a 80 or, you know, an 80 or 90.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they change that definition, but
yeah, no, that's really
I think
helpful.
for a lot of younger men and stuff, and you get hurt and you get all that stuff taken away from you and you're in a situation like you. This is kind of one of the small reasons I wanted you on the show.
Yeah, no, for
but
sure.
But like when you're, you know, in that crucial age where you're, you know, social media.
Oh yeah.
You're worried about what other people think and you're crapping your pants.
Oh yeah.
And lifting 2-pound weights at the gym.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
yeah,
that's a tough place to be, man.
It is a tough place to be. Luckily, man, like I was just so fortunate. Like my girlfriend and my friends, they were all so dope about it. Like I'd get those thoughts of like, oh, who am I? Like I'm a weak human, you know? And I've always been very good about like voicing those, say, insecurities to my friends and just being honest with them. Like, hey, like I would tell my girlfriend, like, oh, I just feel like such like a not a man, you know? I can't even like lift you up, you know? Like I can barely like at that point I could like barely get out of bed, but like I can't do all these things. And like
that's so brave.
And you know what? And you know what was a crazy part also that a lot of people don't think about, like, you know, the sexual functions did not come back for a long time.
Damn, I didn't even want to bring that up, but
I'll get into it. Whatever, dude.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy. So
you want to talk about being a man?
Yeah. Literally that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way you said that hits me hard.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like, you're right. Like
stuff's not working down there.
Men
You're not feeling
men
like
are
a man.
supposed to be strong and like your dick's supposed to work and like
yeah, dude.
You know,
but none of that's working. It sucked for like honest. Yeah, dude. Like 6 months out of rehab did not work, and you want to feel like a crappy boyfriend and a weak man to your lady. Insane. But just honestly, man, like my girlfriend. Insane. Just always had my back. She's like, dude, that stuff does not matter. It's fine. You're going to be okay. You're still progressing. Like, I am not worried about it. Honestly, she was so huge through the whole thing. It was insane.
I think a lot of guys suffer from that stuff.
Yeah.
Stress gets me. Like, if I'm way too stressed out.
Oh, yeah,
you'll, you know,
builds
that'll
up.
kill a boner faster than just about anything.
Yeah, dude,
but, you know, luckily men's health and
Yeah.
figure out stuff pretty fast. But It is crazy, like having a good partner there that's
Yeah.
just like, hey,
Just
man.
the support, man. So it all comes down to like the support system. It's
But
crazy.
there's still a part of you that's like that does matter,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, and you're
It
like,
does.
you're like, you know, it
Yeah.
matters deep down, and you know you have to figure it out.
Yeah, but like I said, man, I would just tell my friends, like, all of it. I was so open to all my friends and family about it throughout the whole thing. And I think
Do you think
if
that helps?
anyone's in that scenario, like, just be an open book, man. Tell everyone the weird things, like, and you just get opinions on it, and everyone's like, dude, that's fine. Like, think about how far you've come, and they just almost like telling more people makes you realize it's like almost like a, oh man, like yeah, I was not walking like 5 months ago. Like, who cares? It's fine. I'm still seeing progress. It's
yeah,
all
like
good.
it's gonna work at some point.
Yeah, totally.
Did you hit the visualization on that one?
Yeah, for sure. I was trying everything, man.
Damn. So 6 months. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That is
Tough one for sure.
that is so fucking hard.
But man, the boys were hyped. I called them all when it finally everything worked. Like when I had full everything worked, I was like, "We're back." They're like, "Yeah, let's go."
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. You know, you think about like what biking gives you,
Yeah, man.
and then also like what it can take from you.
Yeah.
It's pretty
It's
insane.
heavy. It's super heavy. But man, just the new appreciation for life when you go through something that traumatic. Like, I know now I'm back riding like a lot of stuff I was riding before. But dude, even like say that first year back, for example, like when I first got back on the bike, I remember the first time I rode a bike again, I was with my buddy Liam Irvine, and we were at his cabin in Tulameen.
Shout out to Liam.
Shout out to Liam Irvine. I could barely walk at this point. I was maybe 3-4 weeks out of rehab. We went to his cabin for the weekend because I wasn't working. Obviously, I was off work still. Just rehabbing. He's like, "Why don't we go up to the cabin?" I'm like, "Sure, that'd be sick." Just hang out. And he had one of those beach beer cruiser bikes with a big basket. And I'm like, "Man, I haven't rode yet." And he's like, "You think you could do it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I hopped on this like janky old beer cruiser bike, and we rode these bikes up to the liquor store, and we rode them around Tulameen, and it was like, dude, one of the best feelings in the whole world, man. Even just riding this janky old beer cruiser bike around town, I was like, wow.
Any tears?
Oh yeah, I had some tears in my eyes for sure. It was so emotional, man. And then from there, obviously, I was like, oh sweet, I can ride. And then just like being in Kamloops, man, like I discovered so many trails that were just like a cross country trail that I never would have rode before because it's like a flat trail. But just like discovering all these new trail networks. And I remember so many of the friends like Soren. Soren was so sweet about it. He would come out for a pedal with me whenever I asked him.
No way.
And we're not riding anything sick, you know, and I'm going slow. I can barely ride. He would come out just for a pedal, hang, you know. It was so sick.
He's an awesome guy.
Oh, yeah. The man.
Same with Irvine. Shout out to Irvine.
Oh, yeah. All the boys. Same. It's getting back to support system, man. I just had the best support system of all time.
Man, that just shakes me up. You know, Kamloops is such an incredible place, like having all the different level of trails. Like you think about
It's
having trails
crazy.
like that
Yeah.
all the way up to the bike ranch.
And it helps so much for my progression, man. Like, there's just so many building trails. Like every zone has a green trail, so I could go out with the boys early on, and we could hit the same shuttle. But I would just ride the green down, and everyone's like, I'm like stoked because they're stoked. They're stoked because I'm stoked, and we're all still riding the same zone, and like having the good times on the way up and the way down, whatever. But I would just like ride my green trail, and man, like even if I didn't make it to the point where I'm at now, I was so hyped. Probably the most hyped I'd ever been biking, just to be even riding a green flow trail. Hitting a berm and a roller, man. I was just like, oh, this is the best thing in the whole world.
That sensation of the pump and
literally, like, I probably never would have loved biking as much as I do now if I didn't go through that whole injury, 100%. Just everything, life, like just the new appreciation I have, having everything taken away from you and then getting it all back. It's insane.
Yeah, so one of the questions I kind of had is like, has you lost any level of appreciation, and how do you keep that?
No, I just have a whole new level for everything.
Nice.
Like walking.
Yeah.
Taking the dogs out for a walk.
Yeah.
You know, I could have maybe not done that again. Skiing, biking, all of it, man. It's just like, just so grateful for how just like life. It's insane. Like, and that I get the second chance of doing it again.
It is quite amazing, man.
Dude,
You're super lucky.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest guy in the world for sure.
For me, it's stairs. Every time I go upstairs, I used to cry when I used to go upstairs sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I was just like, man, when you can walk upstairs, it's a big deal. Like without a cane, without taking the handle, it's like that's a big step. So for me, the stairs always
was the big one.
Always got me. Yeah, this is so incredible, man. Hearing all this, you know.
Yeah.
Was there anything else other than the lots of things that you laid out that was really hard about kind of integrating back into normal life?
Just obviously regaining muscles has been really hard. Like some came back super easy and others I'm still struggling with. And the not knowing how long certain things are going to take has been definitely a little bit frustrating.
So has it been getting longer and longer?
Oh yeah. And it's cool though, cause I still see progress. But for example, like for whatever reason, my triceps, so weak still. Like, I still can't do I can do like maybe 3 push-ups just because my triceps are so weak. And I work them out 3 to 4 times a week and I still see progress. You know, I can lift a bit heavier and stuff, but it's just slow grind. Like that's the hardest part. I think one of the hardest parts is how slow of a grind it's been. Like we're coming up on 3 years and I'm still like not as strong as I once was. And I don't really know when or if I will be. And just like how long it took to rebuild those muscles. Cause I'm like at a certain point I was like back working again, but like back at work, like way weaker version of myself and just like trying to put in work at the gym and stuff, but just like seeing very slow progress. It's just like you're thankful because you're seeing progress, but it's very frustrating because it's very slow, very painfully slow.
I think that's the hardest part about any injury.
Yeah.
Like even if you think about like if you broke your leg or something, like there's a point in almost any recovery where like the progress almost stops.
Yeah.
And getting those like micro steps is
that's when it gets tricky for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me was like seeing my sister at home. She had CF and there was like there's a new drug now that they take that improves lung function. But before that drug came out, every day she would just get worse. Like no matter what she did. So imagine like she nailed physio, like nailed everything.
And she's doing all she can.
Everything.
Still get
the
worse.
Next day she's like still worse.
Yeah.
So like for me it was like, okay, well, if I can, and still to this day, like if I can improve like 0.0001.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
well, that's where I'm at, right? Still seeing those little improvements, and I'm still getting stoked on it. As frustrating as it is, you still see the improvement.
Well,
man.
It's hard because the things you have to do to get that 0.000001 gets harder and harder.
It does, and it gets longer and longer. It takes longer and longer.
All right, we just took a quick piss break there.
Yeah.
After all the talk, you want to move the table closer? You totally can.
We're good.
Yeah, I was, before we took that break, I was just curious to hear like how you're making the balance of, and how you're staying motivated to keep recovering, because the motivation thing is.
So remember how I said the goal was Backwoods?
Yeah.
So up until Backwoods of last year, that was the goal, man. Like it was tough for sure, especially like when I went back to work, because I was off work for 4 months. I was on workers' comp. Like I was getting checks enough that I didn't have to stress about getting a job like from the government. And then I ended up framing houses actually with my roommate for a bit, which was like the best physio ever because it's so physical.
That's I don't know how that you could do that job.
Well, I mean, I helped as much as I could. The nail gun got heavy some days and stuff, and lifting walls, I wasn't a huge help. But we like fully framed a house together, which was such a cool experience. But though, like once I got back to work, it was really hard to find the balance of working and then going to the gym after work and trying to be and having dogs, dealing with the dogs, trying to ride, trying to have friends outside of biking and be a good boyfriend. It's a tough juggling act for sure. And I think, say, if I didn't have to go back to work full time, I would be way stronger right now, obviously, because I would just have all this time in the world to gym. But that's not a reality, you know. I needed to make money. I can't, like, the government funds ran up. Gotta get back to work, you know. But I still had that goal of Backwoods. That was the goal, man. Like, and I literally, like, I'd get off work and I'm like, there is no part of me that wants to go to the gym at all. That sounds like the worst thing in the whole world. I'm so tired. But then I'd be like, Backwoods, man. Like, I'd want to ride those jumps again. I want to get strong enough to ride.
Voice in the back of your head.
Yeah, literally. And I would be at the gym. All I would think about, I had like an old GoPro video I recorded riding the jumps. I would just think about riding those jumps again, the entire workout. That's all that went through my head, was just riding Backwoods again.
Wow.
It was insane. Literally, I'd like be on like a green flow trail and be like, yeah, one step closer to the Backwoods. That was like the goal. That was the motivator that kept me going. Yeah.
You know, hearing that, and, you know, part of this podcast is, you know, we're trying to tell stories to give back to people who are in tough situations.
Yeah.
And hearing all that stuff you're saying, you know, it seems to me that like having a big goal,
yeah,
having a support system,
100%,
you know, is super crucial. Your friends showing up for you in those dark moments, forcing a positive mental attitude that's almost psychotic.
Definitely a little psychotic. It's very stubborn.
And then would you say that there's like, you know, any other things that maybe you could maybe pass along to help people kind of do recovery?
I think the biggest one is just trying to stay positive. And like, even if your situation is as like grim as it may seem, like just
look for the win.
Find the silver lining, man. I know it's hard. It's not easy, but reach out to people and just try and find that silver lining and focus on the positives. Maybe there's only like a couple, but I think like that's the biggest one, man. Like the power of positivity and like really having that positive mindset definitely got me to where I am today for sure. And the goals. Yeah, like you said. I think you nailed it with those three, honestly.
Were you having problems with comparison or anything? I know like social media, sometimes you could have the best day ever. You flip open your phone and you see your friend in Mexico.
Like, obviously.
And it's minus 30. And you're just like.
Yeah, dude. It's still tough, man. Because like good buddy Liam, man, for example, we were riding so hard together. Like pushing each other so hard. And all the boys I used to ride with super hard. Like now I'm so hyped for them. And they're so hyped for me with where I've come. But it's really hard for me to not think about where I'd be with riding if I didn't have this injury. And if, like, I'd be out here riding big air. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I'd be, like, traveling the world riding bikes, you know? And it's hard to not have those thoughts and not be like, oh, I'd be sick to do a huge fronty again, you know? But realistically, I know I'm probably never going to do a huge fronty again because it's just, like, I don't know. So those thoughts suck for sure.
Do you have any strategies in how you come to terms with that? Is it just
dude?
Like
I just think like, man,
thankfulness?
I could be in a wheelchair. Like, check yourself, dude. Honestly, you had a 5% chance of walking again. You should be extremely thankful that you're even riding again. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's that mental talk inside.
Yeah, 100%. Just the mental talk. Like when you start thinking like, oh, what if this? What if that? It's like, well, what ifs will only get you so far. This is the reality. Like you should be happy with it. Like you've literally like beat the odds or whatever, you know? So like very fortunate. Yeah.
How do you stay rooted in reality? I guess it's just constant feedback of what you can do.
Yeah, 100%, man. And like just like goal setting, you know, like that really keeps you rooted and on track. I feel like setting new goals for yourself,
checking in,
seeing where you're at, you know, because it was crazy. Like, so I don't know, so I went to Backwoods right when I got out of rehab, watched that year.
Yeah.
And that was the goal, you know. I'm like, and I went to the event, could barely walk, but me and my girlfriend watched.
again, that preemptive,
Yeah.
just going. Maybe
Yeah.
that's something
Just
too.
going. I went and I watched, and I'm like,
Just like out of early leave from the hospital.
yeah.
Early leave, yeah.
And then early at Backwoods, watching all the boys ride, have the best day ever. It was still one of the sickest weekends, just watching everyone get it. And I was like, yeah, like, okay, this is the goal, I saw it. I know it. It's how I remember it. It's exactly how I remember it. So then the following year, went back and got it, man.
So let's, there's a year is 360 days.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of ground to cover. So I think, we've been recording for almost 2.5 hours, but I think that I'd in my head, this was the perfect podcast to go through everything.
Yeah.
Get to Backwoods. So we need to cover those 360 days
before. That would be, yeah. So that was just work, gym, ride.
What was it like getting back into work? Like that must have been, like you said, you were,
it was like,
the framing job.
That one wasn't, getting back into work wasn't bad because it was like the least frustrating of the things to be bad at. Because I'm still getting paid to be there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, especially like the framing job was super sick and super awesome of my roommate to give me that work and like help me out because I wasn't an all-star framer. I was pretty weak, but he really put me out of helped me out in a pinch and gave me the job, which helped me progress a lot because I was lifting walls all day and building house. Like, it's not an easy task. But then once I got electrical job again, it's like, okay, I can be like 20% slower. I'm still getting like paid the same, you know what I mean? So the work part wasn't very frustrating for me to be bad at because it's like, I wasn't like electrical isn't super physically demanding. So I would go to work, and obviously I'm not as fast and as strong as I used to be, but it's like, it's just work. I'm going to show up and try as hard as I can and get paid. So it's like, that was the least frustrating of all, for sure. It was more of like, we'd go to the ski hill on the weekend. I'd see all the boys skiing super hard, like hitting fat jumps and stuff. And I like that first winter, like I bought the season's pass or whatever in rehab.
And made it?
Oh yeah, I went. I was there opening day. I remember my first runs, bro.
Dude, you're incredible.
I was there opening day. I had to get my friend to help me put my ski boot on because I wasn't strong enough to get my foot in it. Because if you ever skied, ski boots aren't very comfy. Jam my feet in there, get on the first chair. I remember the first run. I went to take a leak, toppled over, and like my friends are gone. Like, see you later. Like, we were just doing a green run, but I just like peeled off into the trees, take a whiz, toppled over, couldn't get back up. I was stuck in the snow for like 10 minutes. I like weasel over to a tree and I like pull myself up the tree and I come out. All my friends are freaking out. They're like, bro, we thought you broke your neck again. Like, where were you? What happened? I'm like, oh, I just toppled over. Like,
couldn't get up.
Couldn't stand up. We're doing green runs. I could like barely stand, But so like that first winter was tough, seeing everyone get after it super hard, like skiing. And I used to love skiing because you can just like charge in the snow and have like 8 slams a day and it doesn't hurt, whereas like biking, it's not like that, so that part was tough for sure.
How'd you cope with that? Were you just kind of focusing
same thing, man? I would just be like, check yourself, dude. You weren't walking 6 months ago. It's insane you're even skiing right now. Like,
relax.
And even my friends just pumping my brakes like, bro, how are you out skiing? This is crazy. Yeah, right? So everyone's like, this is insane. You're even out here.
I can't believe I can't backflip right now. This is ridiculous.
Well, that's what I would say. And they're like, you're ridiculous. Like, stop, dude. That's insane you're even out here. So it's just like, yeah.
The mind is crazy, eh?
Yeah. That's instantly what I'm thinking. I'm seeing them all hit all the big park jumps. I'm like, oh, dude, I missed that. I'm just out here hitting blues and greens. It kind of sucks. But then I'd like have to check myself, be like, hey, dude, it's sick you're even out here, Yeah. So yeah, those 365 days, man, was just had that goal and would just work.
I can't believe you bought that season's pass.
Yeah.
Your family's like, what?
Well, dude, it was the sickest winter ever because I wasn't really working. I was framing.
Yeah.
But before I was framing, I just had time to ski. I think I got like 55 days on my season's pass that winter because I was just like, it's the funnest rehab I have.
It's probably amazing rehab.
Yeah,
too.
I got to go fast again. Like, going fast on a bike, how good that feeling is.
Yeah.
I got to go fast again on the skis, just point them straight, and it was the best, So that was like fun rehab for me. I was like, the gym's not, I was never a gym guy before I broke my neck. So it was really hard to become a gym guy because I had to. Like, I'd never liked going to the gym much before, but then I had to become one. So skiing was like fun, my fun rehab. I'd be like, okay, I'm getting the legs going, but this is sick. This is like fun. I enjoy doing this.
How did skiing make it easier to get on the bike?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Built the leg muscles up 100%. Definitely traded off.
And maybe mentally too?
Oh, confidence-wise.
Like you're skiing now
yeah.
so you can bike?
Yeah. That was definitely a tough one too, like, because originally the surgeon told me I had a way higher chance of re-breaking my neck because the 3 vertebrae are fused together. All your vertebrae in your neck have a little bit of give, right? But now that all 3 are fused together, the top and the bottom, higher percent chance of re-breaking. I asked them, what's the percent? Nobody knows. Googled it for days. No answers. And I'm like a numbers guy. I'm like, okay, 40% chance higher, I'll probably keep her really chill. But if it's 5, then, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. But... so I never knew that. That was always lingering in the back of my head. Even when I was getting back on the bike, like starting to hit jumps again. It's like, man, like, be careful. What if it happened again?
Then you're back to zero.
And if it was to happen again, the doctor told me, like, guaranteed, like, very, very high chance of being a quadriplegic. So shoulders down, nothing. So
Really?
You were, like, a pretty gruesome situation, man.
So it's not even close.
No, like it, and that was a gnarly thing I had to deal with, like, especially getting back on the bike and knowing how hard to push it and like where my body was at strength wise and what I could handle. That was the toughest part, because it would be like, I'd feel good, I'd feel strong, then I'd case a jump and like fold completely because my muscles weren't strong enough that I thought they were to hit that jump.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was so scared to hit a steep lip again because I just thought I would fold off of it because of the compression. Literally just topple into it. But then I hit one steep lip and it's like, oh, that was fine. You can do that. And then build from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane, man.
I remember the best one was, so it was the following spring. I had the whole winter of skiing. We did our annual trip to Farwell Canyon.
Uh-huh.
And I rode some of the Farwell lines.
Uh-huh.
And that was the first time I had gotten like gnarly again. So Farwell Canyon's this zone in Williams Lake, like really steep, natty, kind of all mountain lines. And I rode like one of the gnarly lines there. And that was the first time I'd like gotten scared again since my like accident, and it went fine. So that was like a huge.
So that was in the spring?
Yeah. So it'd probably been.
That's insane. That's super impressive.
Yeah.
Farwell's gnarly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Especially if you go at the wrong time of year.
Yeah, dude. I bet. And I remember I had a bad slam there. Like, came around a corner. Like, everyone dropped into this line that we thought was good.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't good. And it just literally led you into a wall. And, like, at Farwell, the river's so loud you can't really hear. And, like, everyone dropped, and I dropped last, and I thought it was good to go. But there was just, like, a huge pile up at the bottom. And I slammed hard. Like, I smoked the wall, chucked over the bars. And luckily, big shout out to Liette. I told them my whole story, and they sent me a neck brace because the neck brace actually saves your C vertebrae. That's what it's designed to save, is the higher vertebrae in your neck.
Uh-huh.
So I never ride without that now. I had that on. It was honestly crazy because I had the bad slam, and I'm like, first thing I do in the dirt is like toes, fingers, good. Everything's working. That was gnarly. Like, holy shit. But it was good to know because I like that fear of re-breaking my neck was so real at that point that I didn't know if slams were even an option. And I took like a good digger and was totally fine. And that was like, holy crap, like maybe it is okay to like take some slams again.
Maybe I could ride backwards.
Maybe I could ride backwards, Maybe it is like an act. Yeah. So yeah, that was wild.
What else did you have to kind of overcome to get to Backwoods?
Just strength, man. Strength and mental. It was because, like, I don't know. I've always thought, like, action sports, mountain biking, it's, like, a lot of confidence and maybe less skill. Like, maybe 60-40, 70-30. Like, if you, like, you need the skills and the strength, but it's all your mental game. going in. Like if
Mental game's huge.
if you think you can ride the jumps and your body's strong enough to ride the jumps, you can ride the jumps. But if you're not mentally there yet, like
There's no way.
No chance. No chance at all. So I would just like, luckily living in Kamloops, man, best place to train for Backwoods. Like the bike ranch, start with Wrangler. I rode, dude, the amount of laps I did down Wrangler and cased every single jump for months.
Yeah.
Months and months, I would just case every jump. I'm like, hey, it's getting better, we're slowly getting there. And then I rode Fistful. That was like the huge milestone. Like I was like, okay, I can ride Fistful. If I can ride, my logic in my brain was if I could ride a top to bottom lap on Fistful and into big set in one lap and feel comfy, Backwoods, I'm strong enough. Like that was and I got that done in the summer and I was like, okay, it's go time.
Backwoods is on the horizon.
It is, man. Yeah. And I felt, and the thing with Backwoods was the last couple of years, they weren't sure if it was going to be the last one. There have been talks of the jumps getting torn down.
Totally.
And honestly, going into that Backwoods, everyone was saying this is the last one. Like, so I had that as well. It's like, if I ever want to ride these jumps, this has been my 2-year goal. This is the last chance I'm ever going to have to ride them. If that wasn't the case, probably no way I rode them that year.
So what bike did you choose, and what bike were you riding out there?
So the whole time I was riding, I knew a dirt jump bike. There's no way. Like, cause
I was going to ask.
the dirt jump bike's violent. Like if I haven't rode my dirt jump bike much since, just cause like cases and everything is just way harder on the body.
It is. Dirt jumpers are pure.
Oh
violence,
yeah, it's rough, man. Yeah. And so I've been riding just like my Nolly Warden, the free ride bike, 170, lots of cushion for those cases, but I just did it up so stiff, like a slope style bike. And that's what I was riding Kamloops on. It's the bike I was most comfy on. So yeah, that was the weapon of choice.
And then what was that day like? So you make the decision to go.
Yeah.
How are you kind of dealing with the pressure?
Yeah, so it was crazy, man. I actually quit drinking for 2 months before Backwoods. Like I was full on. Like I was eating good,
nice,
training. Like I took it very serious. Like quit drinking, just gave myself every chance I could to ride those jumps again. And I was just riding Fistful a bunch, feeling good. But I went with my girlfriend and I told her, I'm like, man, like if I'm not feeling 100% confident, I'm not going to ride them because they're too gnarly. Like they're super gnarly jumps. The crash on them, no good. So I was like, only going to do it if I'm feeling dialed. Like if I'm feeling good on the day, I'll do it. And dude, the nerves the week before, I remember I took like a week off just to like kind of chill before. Just every day, every like waiting sec when I wasn't doing something, I was just like visualizing riding those jumps again. Like just like what, like I would just like watch the GoPro video I had and just like think about it. And I was like, keep me up at night, a couple of nights, just like thinking about riding those jumps and like if it was worth it, like this 2-year goal I've had, like is it dumb idea to ride these jumps again? Like a lot of self-doubt was creeping in. Just like all sorts of stuff was going on in my mind leading up to that day for sure.
How did you kind of make what was the equation? What did it look like?
What was the call?
Yeah.
Like when I got there?
No. Like how did you balance all that and decide it was worth it to ride?
It was like just this 2-year goal. And I knew it was the last chance to do it. And I knew I put the work in. And I knew I would have been really upset with myself if I didn't just do it.
Which is the worst thing ever.
I know. Yeah. And I just wanted it so bad. Like I wanted it so freaking bad. Like more. And I'd never in my life had a 2-year long goal. Like I feel like a lot of people don't like set a goal that you actually think about every single day for 2 years and a couple months. And then for when it's game time, it's crazy, man. Like literally just thinking about that one lap for 2 years, almost every day. It was crazy.
It had no choice. It had to come true.
Had to go down.
It had to go down. Yeah.
And it went down great. It was chill.
So I know that day because you're riding with Irvine.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with Irvine a lot. And you guys are out there killing it.
Yeah, we trained every single run that day.
So what happened? Tell me about what happened to him. And yeah, maybe just tell that story.
So man, me and Liam, you know, we rode Backwoods together in the past, and he's been my riding buddy forever. And when I told him Backwoods was the goal, like I told a couple of the boys, like, this is my goal, you know, he's like, man, I'm towing you through those jumps for your first lap. And we are going to party so hard at the bottom when you finally make it through. So I remember Liam told me through those jumps. It took me like 3 or 4 laps to get through the whole line. But when I'd hike back to the top and wait for him, because being Liam, he like opened the line for everyone and he's just lapping like crazy. I'd like hike.
He opened the lineup?
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, the
What
day
a
before I got
beast.
there. Oh yeah, not surprised. He hadn't rode his hardtail in like a year, probably last Backwoods. Just hops on it, opens up the line like crazy.
What a
And then
crazy
so
guy.
he's lapping it. I'd like hit a couple jumps, whatever, and then I'd like wait for him at the top to get there because I wanted that full pull to be behind him because we'd been talking about it for months, and he was like gassing me up so hard. He's like, bro, you got it. I know you got it. Like every time I'd have self-doubt, I'd just like hit Liam up. He's like, I don't know if it's a good idea, bro. He's like, no, dude, like I know you got it. It's going to be fine. I just remember when I first got to the bottom there, man, we were so pumped. Like I hadn't been that, I like cried. It was crazy. Like when I made it down those jumps again. So then it was on, you know, the sesh was on. That was the Friday, and the big jam day was Saturday. So like once I made it through the set, all nerves are gone, you know, like I just like completed my goal, and now I have a whole nother day to ride these jumps. And the crazy part was I was like feeling good on the jumps on Saturday, like not sketchy. It was the first time since I broke my neck that I felt like I used to on the bike. Like I felt like how I used to ride, you know? It was the first time where I was like, man, like I don't feel like I just broke my neck. I feel like a normal one of the boys out here session the sickest jumps of all time. So Saturday rolls around and it's just like no stress. I'm just so hyped to ride for the big show. That's when everyone comes out to watch. And I'd maybe done like, I don't know, 10 laps training Liam every lap. And he had been flipping the really big one a couple times. And I was training him super tight. He flips the big one, goes super deep, still charges the next jump, ditches the bike, and baseball slides down, and I'm flying through the air on my bike like, oh no. And I land directly on Liam's bike and also crash and end up blowing open my elbow and had to go to the hospital and get stitches, and that was the end of my Backwoods. And he felt so bad, of course, you know, like he just took me out of the dream day. But at that point, man, I was just like so happy. I couldn't have cared less. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just rode the Backwoods for like a day and a half. That was the best thing ever. So yeah, I had to run to the hospital, get some stitches, and then came back, and the craziest thing ever happened, man. The boys honored me with the Backwoods Boss title, which was on it. Like, man, I remember being a young Grom and going to Backwoods before I had just been getting into dirt jumping, you know, and watching the Backwoods Jam go on and see who would win the Backwoods Boss every year. And I was like, that right there, that's it. That's one of the coolest things you could win in mountain biking, because the Backwoods Boss is just the overall sickest rider of the weekend, voted by the riders. All the dudes riding Backwoods vote who's the Backwoods Boss that year, and they hand it out. And I was like, man, like that right there, that's one of the most like winning Crankworks would be insane, don't get me wrong, but all the dopest dudes riding the jumps pick who the best rider is of the weekend. And to have I get back from the hospital and everyone's like, oh, like everyone's being kind of weird. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then they call it and they're like, Jake, man, you won the Backwoods Boss. I lost it, dude. I like burst into tears because it was like the craziest thing ever. Like my childhood dream of like, I never even like thought it was a possibility to win that award or that honor, you know? And then also my 2-year long rehab goal being completed. Those two things coming together, man, was like, insane. It was like the craziest day of my life.
Voted
for sure.
by riders too.
Yeah, all the riders of the weekend voted like that I deserved the Backwoods boss or whatever, just for what I'd been through and riding the jumps again. And just for them to like realize that, and like they saw like what I'd been through and just like how crazy it was and like the work I put in. It was just like such a nice like momentum from all the boys, like just a nice acknowledgement. They're like, man, like you're still a badass. And it was just the sickest thing ever.
Mad respect, dude.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. Huge shout outs to everyone who makes the Backwoods possible, like LP, Paul, Aiden, Coast Gravity Park. Those, I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. That was last year's, but all those times, man, some of the best days of my life.
I'm sure it's going to happen again.
I hope so. I'd love to ride those jumps again, man. But just, yeah, that was by far the best day of my life. Probably the craziest day I've ever had.
Jake, that is like such an incredible story.
Yeah, thanks,
that you
man.
laid out, man. And dude, it's so inspiring, and you're such a badass, man.
Means a lot coming from you, man.
It just blows my mind. Like the feelings and everything.
Yeah,
I think
it's
about
emotional, man.
It's so emotional.
I was
so
tearing up
beautiful.
talking about that day at the Backwoods, man, because that was something really special. Yeah, remember that forever.
I think that's a pretty good point to start winding things down.
Yeah, for sure. We've been going for a bit.
It doesn't get much better than that.
No. The only thing after that was crazy though was
yeah.
that was my goal, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was completed. So like I went home and I was like, now what? You know? Like what's my motivator now? Like
Interesting.
That was a weird one for a couple of weeks there, because I was just like,
that's a common professional athlete one.
Is it?
For sure.
Yeah, because it's like that was what got me into the gym every day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That was like just the goal forever. And then that feeling of completing it was like so awesome, but so like, now what? It was crazy.
It's
man.
a huge high and then a massive low.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't know if I'd say like massive low. Like I chilled for a couple of weeks. Didn't have something on my brain constantly, which was nice because that's how I operated before. I was just constantly thinking about it. But then it was, I just had to like reprioritize and just be like, okay, like now the goal is to get as strong as I was before I broke my neck. That's just like been the goal and the constant like battle, you know, just like that's like the new goal is to hopefully like just be as strong as a human as I used to be.
That's a good
and
goal.
Then seeing you come and build big air in Kamloops, because Backwoods is big air, like the ultimate goal would be like, I don't know if I ever will, because
ride the biggest jumps in the world.
Exactly, bro. Because I'm not doing tricks anymore. Like my mountain biking, because my goals before in mountain biking were always like trick based. I have no interest in doing fronties or any of that anymore.
Yeah.
I just want to ride big jumps. But I know there's a chance I won't get strong enough to, because you have to be strong. Like it's no joke riding big air. Like Backwoods was one thing, but like big air is a whole another beast, man. And like that's like a distant goal, you know? Like I want to be as strong as I used to be, but like that's like the back burner goal. That's like, that'd be really cool, you know? If I ever get to the point where I could be strong enough to ride really big jumps.
Yeah. I wouldn't write you off.
Yeah,
you know, after everything I heard,
appreciate that, man.
After everything I heard, I think it's probably pretty likely that you could do anything you wanted, man.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. We'll see if it's in the cards for the next couple of years, but just keep grinding, trying to get strong again.
I think if you know, after riding with you today, you know, there's no reason why.
Yeah.
It's the same as long as the jumps are dialed.
100%.
And you're dialed, it's all good.
It's just being I would want to be very much like way stronger than I am now, just for that if it did go wrong.
Yeah, because it's like a mini car crash.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like I remember
I would get so broken off if I was to crash on one of those jumps right now, it wouldn't even be funny.
Did you hear about when Irvine crashed here?
Yeah.
And the neighbors used to watch, and the neighbor's brother was watching.
Was it when he crashed on the shark fin?
Yeah, he crashed on the shark fin, and the brother got like PTSD, and they don't watch anymore.
No way. You never told me that. Well, fair enough, bro. You should have died on that crash.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
No one watches anymore. But anyways, you know, that's a great mindset to be in. And I think that I wouldn't write anything off because anything's possible. And, you know, just like.
And it's one of those things that's like maybe 2 years down the line I get strong enough, but I just don't feel it's worth it.
Yeah, and then you're strong.
Yeah, at least I'm strong. And then I make that choice then. That's why I'm not stressing about it at all. Like, it's like, if it comes naturally, it comes naturally. But if it doesn't, it doesn't, you know?
Yeah, I think deadlines are spicy in that way where they can you can kill yourself to reach the deadline, you know?
100%.
And in action sports, you don't want to kill yourself.
No, slow progress for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, it's always like, I feel like it's always good to have those goals. And in your case, like, it's totally possible.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes some people have some goals and you're like, you know.
I know.
But which is like real crazy, like maybe, but after listening to our conversation and having some, you know, hearing some other stories, maybe not, because think about, you know, when you bought your seasons fast, right?
Yeah, dude, you know,
you can never
riding Backwoods when I could barely pedal up a hill, you know? Yeah, it's one of those things,
you
right?
can never write someone off in the situation,
totally.
and you never know what anyone is capable of.
Exactly. And it's almost nice to have a back burner may seem far-fetched goal, because it's like always something to work towards, you know? Like, it's like not a goal I'm going to reach anytime soon, but it's like, it's a motivator to keep me going, you know, where it's like, when you set that long-term goal, it's like, you're not going to accomplish it right away. So it's going to like keep motivating me to get in the gym and get strong, you know, and like keep me going for quite some time, I feel like, which is nice.
Totally. That's a huge hack, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be a good one if you're listening at home.
Yeah, set a long-term.
Set a huge long-term
back burner goal. Like not a crazy, you're not stressing about achieving it, but it's there on the back of your mind. Like, that'd be cool. Yeah.
You know, one of the questions I really like to ask people when we're winding things down is, you know, what would you say to your like 10-year self? So like yourself, but 10 years younger.
Like pre-broken neck, I guess.
Yeah, like after everything you've been through. Yeah. If you could sit down with them
and
kind of tell them.
Life's short, man. Just get and it can all be taken away so fast. So live it up while you can, because you never know. Like, crazy for me, I actually broke my neck doing something I love, but man, you could get in a car crash driving home tomorrow and break yourself off, you know? So like, life is short. Live it up while you can, for sure, because it all can be taken away so fast.
That's a good one.
Yeah. You're on the right track. I don't know. Yeah.
Normally I have a bunch of, you know, questions that I usually ask, but this is our first podcast in the studio, so it's been a little bit more loose. We're just adjusting.
Yeah. But
is there any people that you just want to say a special thank you to that, like,
oh man, yeah, I could rifle off a couple for sure. All the bike sponsors, not a single sponsor dropped me while I broke my neck. Wow. They didn't even know if I wasn't going to ride again, and they still sponsor me to this day. When I could barely even ride green, I was posting green flow trail clips on my Instagram. They were sharing it, you know? So like Chromag Bikes, Etnies, Nolly, love you guys. Like, thank you so much. The constant support, even now, still insane. My friends, my family, my girlfriend Katie, the support system I had throughout that whole process was insane. There was also a GoFundMe made while I was in the hospital, which was like such a stress relief for my family. We didn't want to do it at first because it's kind of one of those weird things, you know, asking strangers and your friends for money. But having that safety net where, say, things didn't go well for me and I needed to buy a wheelchair and like a stair lift and a bed and all that, having that safety net money that everyone donated, like, just put my family at such ease. Like, it was just one less stressor, you know? It was one less. And then I used that money a bit to support myself to get strong enough to go back to work. So everyone who donated to the GoFundMe, thank you so much. The biking community, man, I've never felt more love from just a bunch of people I've never even met and all my close friends. Like, we're so lucky the community we have in mountain biking, man. Like, everyone is just so kind and nice, and everyone has each other's back. It's such a big but feels so small, tight-knit community, and I really felt the love from that when I went through my injury, for sure. So just everyone that helped me out throughout that whole thing. I'm the luckiest guy in the world for the support system I had while I was going through all that, for sure.
Well, dude, you're an incredible guy, Jake Fox.
Thanks, Matt.
This was that was quite the story, and I might have some PTSD for a couple days thinking about that one.
No way, bro. Let's go riding, bro.
That was amazing, man. Thank you so much.
Dude, thank you for having me on, man. If anyone is going through it, and you want to reach out, like say you broke your neck, or not even broke your neck, broke your leg, like I am down to talk. Hit me up on Instagram, whatever. Send me a message.
What is your Instagram?
Fake.jocks. Nice and easy. So yeah, send me a message on there. I'm always down to chat. Like if you're going through it or whatever, like I'm here for you. Everyone was there for me, so it's the least I can do.
Well, Jake, this was amazing, dude.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on here. Let me share my story for everyone. Hopefully it helps someone out one day.
Definitely will.
Yeah. Cheers, man.